Greetings, and welcome to House of R, a Ringerverse podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network. I'm Mallory Rubin. Joining me today to remind us that when it is madness bid, it is madness delivered.
Yeah.
It's Joanna Robinson.
I thought you were going to say I'm here to give you the whole arm bone.
If you want to just start talking about Alice now, we can.
You know the phrase like put your foot in it or like whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
I think we should just replace it with give it the whole arm bone, as it were.
You don't need to talk me into it.
Great.
I'm down. In case you can't tell, we are here to dive deep into a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. That's right. Full arm bone deep.
Mm-hmm.
Into episode 3.
Yeah.
Right after this. All right, Joe, a quick refresher on how we do this. Talk the Thrones. Normally, Sunday nights, right after the episode. This week, the Super Bowl is on Sunday. They're posting A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, episode 4 early, like overnight heading into Friday.
Right, midnight.
That's right, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. So when you wake up on Friday, Talk the Thrones will be waiting for you already. And that means whenever you watch episode 4 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Talk the Thrones will be there waiting for you.
It's true.
Great news. Then we will be back next Tuesday evening for the deep dive on episode 4. We're with you on Wednesday this week because I had just a terrible migraine and could not podcast yesterday. Sorry. Thanks for waiting.
But here
we
you are.
appreciate it. I had one of those like can't look in the lights, look in the screen migraines. Doing great today. And tip top.
Yeah?
Health
Form?
and- yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm doing great. Spoiler warning. In case anybody needs a refresher on this as well, here's how we do it. We're going to sprinkle book information, both from the Hedge Knight novella on which this season of television is based and all of the canon throughout the podcast as we go for context, for additional insights, clarity, frankly, just because we like to read.
Elbow deep, profound insights.
That's right. Or you might have just asked for a pinky, but we're giving you all 3 fingers and the whole arm bone. But if it is about future events yet to come in this season of television, in the novel, that will all be separate waiting for you at the end of the podcast in a book look ahead spoiler section. You will be warned before that section begins, so you cannot miss it. The people of the world, the bad babies, they have said quite clearly, Carlos has ensured I can't miss this to the point where I might crash my car.
Yep. We did get I'm afraid for my life when I hear the spoiler warning. But is that better than being spoiled?
It's better than being spoiled. We're providing a service. Carlos is providing a service.
I think
for the listeners. Thank you, Carlos. How can everybody follow along?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me that. First of all, why don't you follow us wherever you get your podcasts? I'm not here to tell you where that is, but wherever it is, why don't you subscribe to House of R? You've got Talk the Thrones. You've got our deep dives, and you've got a bunch of other stuff, including hopefully this week, if all goes according to plan, Buffy season 3 part 2 at long last.
That's right.
So, there's a lot to love about the House of Our feed. So
you can catch up on the hype draft if you haven't yet.
Oh, yeah. I did a great job on that.
Everybody did great. Everybody
Are you
did
winning?
Great.
Are you still winning?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. As I told you, I voted for you because I knew I wasn't going to win, and it was important to me that one of us won. So I threw my vote behind Mallory. Not strategic draft, but strategic voting. Okay. Also,
yes.
Why don't you follow us on the social media platform of your choice?
Do it.
We're on Instagram at Ringerverse. We're on TikTok. We're on a bunch of other places, wherever you like to gather and get your information. And then hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com. Real doozy in the inbox this week. You guys are really, really vibing on Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. You have a lot of opinions about who knew what, when, and why. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get to some of your emails quite soon.
What would you say percentage-wise? How many of the emails this week were about Alice?
Very low percentage. Most of them
we had it covered.
Most of them were like, hey, Joanna and Mallory, not everyone lives online, and most people didn't know who the fuck Egg was.
Great.
So we love that.
Fantastic.
We love a surprise.
Fantastic. That's the programming rundown. That's the spoiler warning.
Yeah.
That's where you can find us. Let's get to the opening snapshot. Joanna, what did you think of this episode of television? Episode 3, The Squire.
Oh, thanks. I loved it.
Same.
Thanks. I loved it. all of the stuff, I mean, the reveal I thought was done really, really well.
Yeah.
And Sarah Dina Smith, who directed this episode and then I believe is directing 4 and 6, was a really fun person to give insight into this episode. I just really loved everything she had to say about it. But I love the way that she talked about all the time we got to spend with Dunk and Egg together, just being bros, guys being guys, pals being pals. Really, really great stuff. And then the way she talked about the reveal, because like, okay, whether or not you're terminally online, have read the books, or were completely surprised, she talked about how they wanted to deliver something for everyone, no matter how you were coming to the show.
Yes.
And I really love that because I hate when a show is like, aren't you surprised when, a percentage of the audience isn't?
Or you must have done the homework.
Right.
Either way.
Right. Either way. Yeah. And so this is just sort of like a fun, like sort of telenovela, almost like the Californians SNL sketch, like dun dun dun, like reveal, really fun and but in like in a funny way.
Yeah.
And then there's just the emotional truth of what does this mean for Dunk and what does this mean for Egg going forward? The betrayal inside of a heroic act from both of them, And so I just loved all of that. I also wanted to ask you about the title of the episode, The Squire.
Yeah.
Right. This could be Egg. This could be Dunk himself, who was a squire. This could be Raymun Fossaway. Like, it could be whatever,
big speech.
Whatever squire you prefer. But I was thinking about the episode titles we've had so far, right? Like Egg is both a squire and he's not.
Yep.
Right? Dunk in the first episode, a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Is he? We don't know. That's a question that the show is asking, right? And then Salt Beef. Is Arlen salt beef or is he not? It's a good question to ask. But like these titles that are just sort of like a title that is much more complicated. Is Dunk actually offering Egg a life of salt beef? No, we get Egg Sammys and like
breakfast.
Soft like walk and talk sausages inside of this episode. So like I want to keep tracking the episode titles and sort of see what they're trying to give us there. But
I love it. And I think also the idea of perception, right? What not only these characters think about themselves. And we love an episode that applies to multiple different aspects of the story or different character sets. Certainly the way that Dunk, when Egg is off with Thunder and Dunk wakes up to find himself alone, immediately falls back into the rhythm of life as a squire, sewing his own patches, lighting his own fire, this reinforcement of this transitional moment in his life and the thing that he is trying to lean into and build and forge, but the thing that he left literal days ago.
Right.
And, I think that on the perception front, what do people think about Dunk and his stature as a knight or a squire, the way that he looked at Raymun when it was getting to know him? And we talked about the passage in the book for, the additional context in prior episodes of like, oh, you're a squire? Like one of us must be a fool.
Yeah.
But the first title being, the hedge knight, the fact that Dunk, as Arlen did before, carries that with him as both a point of honor and a badge of pride. And that's going to come up a lot as we talk today about the choices that Dunk makes and the way that he thinks about true virtue and chivalry, but the way that plenty of people, both at Ashford, Meadow, and across the realm at large, would take the idea of the hedge knight and wield it against him, right? Use it as a diminishment or some sort of admonishment.
Sad.
It is. It's very, very, very sad.
Sorry. I was doing my...
It is sad.
My impression.
It's a good impression and it is sad. So I loved this episode as well. I thought this was wonderful. I think every episode so far has been good, but this was my favorite. And I think they packed so much effective storytelling into 30 minutes. It's really kind of amazing. I thought this was charming and funny to the point you made about just kind of hanging out. It had real like Avengers sitting around the table eating shawarma or like hanging out trying to live Mjolnir energy. Like it's important to see your figures of myth and legend and these great heroes and characters of consequence across the canon just like making breakfast. There's something so charming and winning about how that,
I love that
allows us to invest in their lives, the rhythm of their lives.
I love that comp. And I was also thinking about, when we see Egg say, I could be happy in a place like this, like in dreaming of a future. This idea of, which we talk about when we talk about Lord of the Rings, of like, it's important to spend time in the Shire so that we understand what's at risk here.
Yes.
And what's at risk is not even like Dunk's life or Egg's life or anything by the end of the episode, though Dunk is certainly in a lot of hot water for assaulting a Targaryen prince.
Yeah.
But it's the fragility of their bond.
Yes.
This newly formed bond. We get to see what it means for them to be like, to tease each other, to be brothers.
Yes.
You know, for Dunk to be afraid that Egg has abandoned him in the morning and then just sort of like settle back into this joy of companionship and dreaming of a future together.
Yeah.
And so it's important to like understand all of that.
Yes.
To understand what is potentially lost here at the end with the reveal.
Yeah. I love all of that. I love the other thing I really liked about this episode is, we talked about this a lot, I think fairly carefully while breaking down the trailers and then in the early episodes of the season, this idea embraced by George, actively championed by George is one of the things he loves so much about the story and Ira Parker and the show team. This idea that we are in a story in the world of the small folk, right? And this is a tale of commoners. And I remember when we were covering the trailers, like, that I had like a bit of worry actually about overstating that simply because one of the two people in the two-hander is as revealed in this episode, a Targaryen prince, right? And so obviously we knew from the beginning that the Targaryens were going to be in this season of television and are in this story. But the fact that royalty is part of this episode, I think very effectively, slightly, ever so slightly, without in any way undermining, recalibrates the positioning of that idea. And yet it is still true. And actually the fact that one of the two primary figures is a princeling, and yet this is still so fully entrenched in a different perspective and a different kind of energy. Like we're still not spending all of our time in the halls of power. And the fact that actually we could be because of who one of the characters is makes that even more enticing. So I like that we now have like that everybody watching the show has a clearer understanding of how truly unique that is. It's actually even more interesting than if we were just with like Daisy and Red and Brienne and Dunk and Aegon Targaryen were not in the mix at all. So it's fun to be at that point in the narrative overall.
I think also, there could have been a temptation. We do get, as you and I discussed on Talk of Thrones, we get this sort of premise breaking, as you're saying, moment where, not premise breaking, but like we're with Egg.
Yes.
Dunk's asleep back at camp. We're off with Egg and Thunder, right? So we're either in Thunder's POV or we're in Egg's POV. We're not.
I'm always in Thunder's
POV.
We're
not in Dunk's POV, right?
Yes.
So that was like a sort of like, oh, okay, to your point. But they could have, we got a question from a listener, which we'll get to in a second, about sort of like the fact that this episode has so much DNA from the book, but also has the most departures from the book in terms of like invented moments. And it's just sort of stretching out Dunk and Egg's time together, I think, a bit more. And before the reveal. But inside of all of those inventions, there isn't like, we don't need to see Maekar and Aerion in a scene together. Or we don't need to see Baelor and Aerion in a scene together. We get it just from like Baelor rolling his eyes and being exasperated.
Yeah.
That's a mild term with like what Aerion does in the tourney feels. Like things are accomplished with glances.
Yes.
That another show might feel like, oh, we really need to establish what an asshole Aerion is. I'm like, no, we get it. You know?
And our response to what he does in this episode, both with Humfrey Hardyng out in the lists and his poor horse, and of course with Tanselle, is how is Dunk receiving this and responding to it and processing it? And how is it influencing and impacting and radically altering his perception of what it means to be a person who carries a certain title, knight, prince, Targaryen, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But then how does the rest of the realm respond? The fact that this episode, and this was another thing we talked about in the run up to the season, because Ira Parker was talking about how Aerion is a character who he like likes the ambiguity of like not really saying definitively this is what's going on in his head. And we do know things about him, and we have extra, insights from the book, some of which we'll talk about today and moving forward. But like that he is a little bit of an enigma by design, and the fact that the episode is not really like positioning us inside of Aerion's brain so that he is saying to us, this is exactly why I do this. We have enough to be able to deduce and discern that, certainly. But the thrust of the drama comes from how people respond. The people who are in the stands watching him. The people who are saying, this is the thing that you have done.
His very brother.
His brother. His uncle. The crowd that parts for him when he walks into the puppet show, not out of respect, but out of
Fear.
Out of terror.
And like this episode could have been called The Dragon or The Dragon Ought Not Lose or something like that, but it's called The Squire, you know, because this isn't Arion's episode. This is Egg's episode more than anything else.
Yeah. And like that, you know, that humble aspect of a squire's work is like so centered in this episode in a way I love, and like reminded me of the things that you've been citing across the prior 2 episodes, you know, the idea of like the time that Dunk spent cleaning and preserving the sword for Arlen, and the way that like what it means to wake up and not only serve your knight but forge this family. That's part of why I love the Egg Thunder opening stretch of this episode, like really reinforcing this idea of this unit that you protect family. And that you
and the horses are part of it.
Absolutely. The horses are part of it. What a great, I can't wait to talk about Thunder's performance in this episode. Memorable stuff. Anything else before we get to some of the opening mailbag items on other topics that we want to share from the listeners about just this question of whether people were surprised? Because it really did seem like we got in emails and comments on the Talk of Thrones episode, et cetera, all over the interwebs, really kind of ran the gamut, like a mix of people saying, well, either I knew and here's my reaction to it, or I was astonished, or I didn't have any relationship to the source material, but I literally Googled this dude once and had it spoiled for me, which that specifically was the thing that like was a head scratcher and a puzzler. Not in any way this idea that people have to be mainlining the source text or diving deep into the wikis or anything, just that like you were half a sentence away from having this blown for you at any point in time over the run up to the season or the first few weeks. So I'm frankly really relieved that it was preserved for as many people as it seems to have been preserved for.
We got far too many anecdotes for me to relay, but they were all like very delightful about people watching with pals who didn't know, or like conversations that they'd had at dinner parties leading up to or whatever, where they were just sort of testing that fun way that like,
sure,
if you're good at hiding a spoiler, which like I think sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not or whatever, but like you can just sort of ask your friends like, oh, do you have any theories about who you think, you know, Egg is? Yeah. And like the answers that all these people got were just sort of like all over the map, or like, well, he's just a kid or something, you know, whatever. So I'm sure some people clocked it, but plenty of people didn't. And what seems to be the case for the people who didn't, and that's great. I love that.
Me too.
The people who didn't, it's a huge surprise.
Yeah.
Like a
awesome.
Giant what the fuck moment. And that's great. It's just, I think we were just worried that it was just a big secret to keep. And especially, I think we were especially a little salty when we felt like HBO was sort of like playing it both ways with some of their social media stuff. But again, not everyone's trolling the Game of Thrones Instagram like I am. And then our listener Steve wrote in to say, I miraculously avoided spoilers for Sunday night's big Egg reveal. I found big twists hit harder on screen than on page. This brings me to a question I'm afraid to Google. Are there upcoming show twists that the novella reveals earlier? Or can I dive in while keeping the surprise for the show? Smaller twists are fine. Really just looking to preserve the Red Wedding / Hodor level events for Sunday nights instead of ye old commute. So I think what Steve is asking is like, can I listen? Sounds like listen to the audiobook.
The first half, like
to like up until, you know, Dunk's, you know, Dunk punching Aerion and press pause and will I be spoiled? I don't think there's anything in that first part. I will say, and I actually don't think, I mean, no, there are big events that happen in the back half of this story for sure that I want everyone to experience on the screen if they haven't been spoiled. But I will say we had another listener ask, like, in our spoiler section, do we just keep it to the Hedge Knight? Or
No.
I know. I was going to say, we don't just keep to the Hedge Knight. We will talk about the Sworn Sword. We will talk about the Mystery Knight. Like, you know, we will talk about the other novellas. So like the spoiler section is just a free for all in case you were like, well, now that I know I can hop into the spoiler section, I wouldn't do that. So I would say to Steve and anyone listening, I do think you can listen to the first half of this novella or read it if you want to and not be spoiled.
Yeah. I think that's definitely true inside of the first novella. I think there is still, if you really want to proceed with caution, and this gets just again to the larger question of how the show is positioned and not saying this is just who these characters are in the world overall. I think there is still some like risk of broader like book summary log lines in terms of just like future, this is who these people are. Proceed with caution. I would just open the first page of the Hedge Knight and start there.
Be careful always. I will say, Page 75. Page 75 is a drawing, but page 74 ends with, if you have the copy of the book, I cut it off, brother said egg. I didn't want to look like you. Dun, dun, dun. That's page 74 of this edition.
There's a nice pause, a long, pregnant pause in the audiobook there, too.
Yeah,
so, great stuff. All right, what other opening snapshot mailbag items do we want to hit?
We wanted to offer congratulations to Rachel and Dennis on their engagement.
Two bad babies married.
Found each other in the wild, and that's just like really, really sweet. So thank you for that email. I also want to send some love to our listener, Amy Lee. I won't get into the details of her email, but it was very touching, and I want to send some love out to her. We got after the hype draft when you asked me, like, I think it was you or maybe Sean, probably you, which translation of the Odyssey I would be reading. And I was like, I don't know, probably the one that I had in college, which actually the one I had in high school, which is the Fitzgerald translation. We got more emails than we have for anything in a long time from listeners recommending that we read the Emily Wilson translation of the Odyssey, which I went and picked up from a Los Angeles bookstore yesterday. Barnes & Noble, you can see I meant to shop a little bit more locally, but they didn't have it. But the big box store did. Thank you, Barnes & Noble. But I still supported brick and mortar. But Emily Wilson, this is a newish translation. It's the first time a woman has ever translated the Odyssey. But and even more than that, I would say a lot of people really praise this translation for its not like modernity in that it's sort of like hip slang language or anything like that, but just sort of like very clean, easy to navigate sort of language. Nice. And then there's the Fagles translation, which I think a lot of people praise for how poetic it is. So that's another option. But I've also been told by listeners that the audiobook for this translation is narrated by Claire Danes. So that's a fun fact as well.
Oh my goodness. Look at that.
That's just part of our Odyssey that I would like to thank so many of the bad babies for chiming in on. Also, our listener, David. This is what I flagged before. He said, this episode seemed to have the most original content that wasn't in the book yet. So I'm curious which scenes from the first 3 episodes is your favorite show addition. Do you have an answer to this?
I would say just like in general, the choice to move up the introduction and like full incorporation of certain characters and to just expand their roles. So like, as we've been talking about from the beginning, the Laughing Storm, Lionel Baratheon is just a earlier, bigger presence in the show than he is in the book. He's been in every episode so far. He's made an impression in every episode so far. Robyn, I had always said Rhysling previously. Rhysling per egg. That's not how Harry Lloyd says it in the audiobook, so I think we have free reign to say it how we want.
Mika. Rhysling like the wine, or
that's my answer. The Ashford Herald, who's here to give us very specific pronunciations. He's with us in a slightly different way, so just like learning a little bit more about some of these characters. Yeah, Raymun has I would say like a really a dialed up energy compared to what we had been trained to expect from the novella, but then also just like taking little nuggets and fleshing them out. Like we got 2 great full song lyric rundowns in this episode.
My answer is the songs.
Is all the Hammer and the Anvil, Alice's song. This is like really fun, really great. It adds a lot of texture and vibrancy and just life to the episode, but it also allows us to take something that we know exists and experience it in full. And I think in a way that feels utterly tonally appropriate and specific to this show, like highly comedic, really lewd, but also you believe that could have been the case anywhere in Westeros, that these lyrics popped up for us. So all of that is like really great. What else? I mean, all of it. It's been like a thrill. The show is so good.
So no one thing. You're not going to pick one thing. It's the Herald. It's your guy, the Herald.
And I do love him. I am a fan of his. I don't know if I have just absolutely like one thing. I think just in general, the choices to expand or slide up all feel like purposeful and appropriate to me. It really have not like missed on that.
I think really fulfilling the prompt that Ira Parker stated, which is just to sort of like deepen and flesh out the world, but not sort of dramatically change anything, which is why George is like, Ira Parker, my favorite, sort of thing. Okay. And our listener, and for me, it's the songs. And I have a question about what you keep calling the Hammer and the Anvil, because I'm not convinced that that's like the Hammer and the Anvil song. Do you know what I mean? Even though they mention it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably a more stately version of the Hammer and the Anvil that exists.
Maybe.
I did ask my friend Jenny, who's friends with Dan Romer, to see if like he would answer some questions for me. So stay tuned. That's like all I want to know in the world is more about the songs. Okay, and then our listener Brian had this question about Mystery Knights, which I thought was interesting. How do so many Mystery Knights end up into tourneys if they aren't able to give their credentials? There are several Mystery Knights mentioned, but thinking specifically the Knight of the Laughing Tree at the Tourney of Harrenhal. Keeping things spoiler-free, there are several assumed candidates for the identity of the Knight of the Laughing Tree.
Yeah.
But how would one of these people have been able to enter a tourney that prestigious without having to prove that they are actually a knight? Knight of the Laughing Tree is described as small in stature, wearing pieces of armor that don't fit well or match. Sir Dunk the Hunk, great name, being given such a hard time just makes me really curious how this could have happened without King Ares being aware of who the Knight of the Laughing Tree really was. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess it's an interesting question. I guess there's kind of like in the most broad and basic sense, it's worth us noting again that tourney rules really vary setting to setting. Like one of the things we learn actually in this novella is that there are like a dozen different forms that a tourney can take. One of the things that we hear reinforced actually by Plummer in the show as well here is that like Lord Ashford is after a certain type of prestige and credibility, right? So I don't want to get into particulars and spoiler future things for Dunk's storyline, obviously, but I will say he does not have this problem at other points in the canon in a different setting. So a lot of this is like Ashford and Plummer insisting on a certain level of vetting because Lord Ashford wants to be able to say
Lady Gwyn's birthday.
Yeah, look who showed up
Nothing
to ride
but
in the
the
list
best.
for Gwyn. So it really just, part of it is that it varies setting to setting in terms of the form a tourney takes, but also what level of like rigor the host is going to insist on.
That's a very convincing answer. I also want to say that this idea of the Mystery Knight as a trope is, obviously something that George likes to play with, and it is an iconic trope of chivalric stories. I was just talking to a friend of mine who is working on, I was talking to her about the Power Rangers and how Tommy the Green Ranger, like, something happens and then he comes back as the White Ranger. And it's it was like this, sorry, spoilers for the original, the Power Rangers TV show. But this is like, I remember that blew my tiny mind. And then I went to like, have you ever been to the medieval times? Like to go to one of the medieval times, sort of like
maybe like once
tourney banquet things,
but maybe not.
Same thing happens, right? My guy, the Green Knight, dies and he comes back as the Mystery Knight, and then he like reveals himself as the Green Knight, and you're like, holy shit! So this is something that happens in Ivanhoe, which is like the clear source for the Hedge Knight, right? Ivanhoe rides under the title the Disinherited Knight, and King Richard himself goes in disguise as the Black Knight. So this is a common trope that it's royals disguised as Mystery Knights so they can come in and tilt on the list and stuff like that. So it's a trope of this particular kind of storytelling. I do think that I'm convinced by what you said, but I also think George sometimes contradicts himself inside of these novellas as well.
And I think some of it fits into actually, I guess this inspires, I'll go back to answer the prior question and say my favorite adaptive change is just putting a lot more Blackfire Rebellion in this season of TV, which is very appropriate given the shadow that's going to cast over future events at just this point in the timeline. But as you've noted on prior pods, George hadn't locked in that canon yet when he wrote this novella. So it's not present in the text for the first novella in a way that it should be and makes sense to be here in the show. On that same front, it is just so thematically appropriate, in addition to just being something George loves historically and wants to incorporate into his fictional universe. It is so appropriate for Dunk to find himself at the beginning of his journey in this place where the idea of needing to prove that he belongs, and it's really hard for him to prove that he belongs, is an appropriate place to find him. And that is maybe less useful elsewhere in the canon. It's a lot more useful elsewhere in the canon to say, who is this figure out there who is astonishing people? Whether there is a difference between the master of the games in a given setting knowing who is actually behind a given shield or helm and the masses not knowing is less important than what the point George is trying to make inside of a given story is. Tales grow in the telling.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say the third novella is called The Mystery Knight. So
it is indeed.
This is a trope that will come up in these stories.
Indeed. Yeah. Another great one where a lot of different, we can apply that title to a lot of different parts of that story, can't we? Can't wait to get to that season. Fun one. Anything else before we hit the deep dive?
I don't think so. We've got a couple other emails, but we'll hit them sort of
sprinkle them as we go. Fantastic. Okay, we are going to go as usual, scene by scene through the episode in chronological order. So let's get to the deep dive. Okay, 2 tickets to the Thunder and Egg show, please. Dunk's sleeping in. Egg, he is up with the sunrise. Very familiar morning podcast energy. Pit of anxiety in his stomach, thinking about all the prep that awaits.
I don't even want to talk about how early I woke up this morning, honestly.
Same. This is an early day. Egg saddles Thunder, grabs the sword, preps to lead him right into the structural departure that you already mentioned today. We're not in Dunk's point of view in this opening scene. Now, Dunk is very present in this scene because everything that Egg and Thunder are doing is about Dunk.
Yeah.
And so he is there with us, but we are not in his perspective. We talked about this a little bit on Talk the Thrones. Was just this little taste of a different point of view inside of the show enough to make you want more of that? Wish we had more of that, even though obviously being rooted in Dunk's point of view is very true to the novella?
No, I think if it makes sense for the story, that's great. But like, I like being with Dunk as much as we've been. And
so you're open to the occasional departure?
Sure. I mean, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I reserve the right to not like it if I decide it doesn't make sense.
At any point.
Sarah Dina Smith, the director, and her DP were talking about how they felt like this was a chance for them to do something different with the camera. So you get a lot of like swooping crane shots and stuff like that to like really just show us. I just love that they're like, okay, we're going to make the cinematography different because we're in a different POV. Like I thought that was just like a really cool
because this character is a different height.
You sure is smaller.
Tiny little egg. Oh, man. Can't wait to just start saying egg freely now that we know who Egg is and that he's Maester Aemon's brother. We can say that without... I've said that on a trailer pod and then I had to slack Carlos and be like, cut that out! I don't want to spoil that he's related to Maester Aemon. Oh, no!
I mean...
Just weeks of panic about accidentally tipping who Egg is now. Egg soothes Thunder. Easy boy. He's pushing him. He's encouraging him. You're stubborn as old iron. He... offers up Maekar, his father, we know now, his opinion on horses. My father told me you should never talk to a horse. And then Egg's like, I don't think that's true. And not only is this wonderful because Dunk is such a horse girl, as we've talked about, right? And we're seeing that Egg also has this like soothing, nurturing, bonding with animals energy, that same kind of like winning shorthand that we've discussed. It's also a great way to show us the fatherly lessons passed down to Egg over the years of his life so far. Let's just move those aside in favor of what Dunk has taught Egg and showed Egg over just a couple days.
My dad's lessons created an Aerion. Is that who I want to be? Not really.
No.
I wanted to take a second, and I'm going to do it throughout this podcast, so just buckle up, buttercups. But I mentioned this on Talk the Thrones, that an inspiration for this story is T.H. White's Sword in the Stone. Wart and Egg and their comps. And so like the idea of, even if you've never read T.H. White's books, which you definitely should, if you've seen the Disney cartoon, you will know that like part of Wart's lessons from Wart being Arthur, so like a royal who doesn't even know he's a royal, which is different than Egg, who knows he's a royal, spoiler. Right? For just the Sword in the Stone.
Kidding.
Welcome.
Kidding.
But part of Merlin's lessons for Wart is to turn him into an animal and to talk to animals.
Yes.
So this way in which Egg is like talking to Thunder here. This way in which, because for Merlin, he felt like it was important for Arthur, who he knows what's going to happen to Arthur, even though Arthur doesn't, but it was important for Arthur to like learn all of these things. And part of the learning is the doing.
Yes.
And so a couple things I wanted to mention. First of all, Lev Grossman's credited as a consultant on the first episode of this season of television. And Lev wrote The Bright Sword, as well as The Magicians, etc. But wrote The Bright Sword, which is a great Arthurian retelling book that I read, I think, last year. Really, really good book. And so I don't know if like he was around to say like, hey, I did all this Arthur homework or all these nightly homework or whatever. I don't know exactly what his role was on that first episode, but he is credited there. And then T.H. White wrote this story during World War II. So it's very much in the vein of Tolkien, like taking their experiences in war and looking back at fantastical Arthurian ideas of knights and warriors with a critical, almost anti-war. I mean, definitely in T.H. White's case, anti-war eye. And it satirizes traditional elements, and it points out the more brutish and violent aspects of like chivalric traditions. And so, which is something that George loves to do. I think it's interesting. A contrast I want to point out, though, is like Wart, young Arthur, is this boy who idolizes knights and knows all of the stories and all the legends. And so in that way is much more like Dunk than Egg actually is. And then that puts Egg more in like the Merlin role, where he's the more learned sort of teaching. So it's not a mapping one-to-one. And we've talked about that inside of this dynamic, how great it is that like
they're teaching each other.
They're teaching each other, that in the classic lone wolf and cub trope, it's the jaded, grumpy, older figure and the younger, innocent, chipper figure sort of chipping away at him. That's not quite what's happening here at all. But yeah, Wart is called a, quote, born hero worshiper in T.H. White. And that's like much more Dunk, who has the scales fall from his eyes. And we'll talk about that a bit more. But I just want to hit two more quotes and then we can roll on from this. But this classic Merlin advice to Arthur, which is the bravest people are the ones who don't mind looking like cowards, which, so many people have connected to. Can a man still be brave if he's afraid? That is the only time a man can be brave,
best.
And then Merlin has a lot of his speeches about might equaling right and not. And a lot of people have connected those lessons to Varys talking about power resides where men believe it resides, no more, no less. So like, what is the true source of power? Is it knowledge? Is it money? Is it holding the sword? What is it?
Is it a trick, an illusion, a shadow on the wall?
Exactly.
Does it reside where men think it resides?
So like George has cited so many inspirations, real history, all this sort of stuff like that. But he will constantly, when listing sort of like books that people should read or inspirations that he will constantly reference T.H. White. And so I just think it's worth thinking about in the context of what he's trying to say inside of this story.
Yeah, and I think his affection for these novellas and for Dunk and Egg as figures, and so many of the readers and now viewers' affection for them, the Arthurian influence is present throughout A Song of Ice and Fire, but nowhere more than here.
Oh yeah,
nowhere more than here. Love that. Shout out Wart.
Wart shall return in Avengers Doomsday and also later in this podcast.
We should get a countdown clock for they have for Doomsday.
For the ones in future.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
On that point you were making about the connection to animals and that being a part of the training, I love too thinking about, we've talked a lot across the season already. We're going to talk more than we have yet today about the Targaryens at this moment without their dragons, right? And the vulnerability, the perilous position that puts them in, ripe for attack and ridicule. This little moment with Egg and Thunder, it's a great way to remind us. It almost puts you in a like Stark, direwolf, Targ, dragon, the depth of a bond with an animal, with a creature.
Demon
moment.
And Caraxes.
Just for a second.
Yeah.
Caraxes. It's just like, I really liked that element of it. And it was very fun too when I got such a kick out of Dexter, who plays Egg on the official pod, being like, it wasn't clear to us whether the horse actor who plays Thunder like nodded on his own or whether that was, I was like, Print the legend, man. I love this. But I got such a kick out of those couple moments where Thunder really enthusiastically nods along and just says, this idea that like this bond is meaningful for so many reasons, but these are intelligent creatures who have an opinion on what is transpiring. I thought that this scene really did a great job of showing us that connection between Rider and Mount in a way that like Arlen taught Dunk, and now Dunk is teaching Egg, and this idea of like, when Egg says this thing about Maekar, about what his father thinks, like Arlen is there too then, right? Because it's like a hedge knight's view on the world, a hedge knight's beliefs and lessons, pushing royal schooling aside for a second. This idea that like Arlen taught Dunk something, which we talked about a lot last week in the Sweetfoot scene, etc. Plenty of people would say it's not wise to think about a horse this way, but like Arlen did and Dunk does. They'll give their last copper. And now Dunk is giving that to Egg and he is embracing it. And it's like, we're going to end this episode on this massive note about who Egg has been his entire life. And so how does he reconcile what he is learning, but also what he desires?
Yes.
I could be quite happy. I think I could be quite happy in a place like this.
Taking lessons and leaving lessons and deciding for yourself as you grow who is the right person to instruct you. And Maekar being a person who thinks of horses and people as things to sort of be like whipped and rode, and Aerion thinking of them as things to be stabbed in the neck or snap their fingers,
Right.
And even Egg in a previous episode, calling, why do you let these royal lapdogs treat you as their betters, right? And so he's just like, I'm a Targaryen.
Right.
These are my lapdogs, right? And I am their better. And so like even in that, even as he's sticking up for Dunk in that moment, which is something that we like, he's still in this very hierarchical, like,
for sure.
Here are the hierarchy, and at the top, my fam, the Targaryens.
Yeah, and like there is something entrenched and true about that for Egg and his life and his experience, but also the fact that he's referring to them like the judgment. He doesn't love being worshipped. He's like, who are these sycophants? Yeah. So, but it reminds me of, the way that we've talked about, and I've loved everything you've said the last couple of weeks about not only Dunk's name and how he got to the moment of saying Sir Duncan the Tall, but then the shield, right? This idea of picking pieces and strands and this tapestry that you stitch together of like who you are and who you choose to be is going to be influenced by all of these different people who had some sort of bearing on your life. So like, when Egg is telling Thunder, like Dunk only has us. In this moment, that is true, and we will feel how true that is when we see Dunk's face when Egg returns, right? But there was a moment before that was true, where Dunk only had somebody else, and that doesn't cease to be a part of Dunk's life because Arlen is gone, etc. So I think the show is doing just a lovely job, and the story does a lovely job of really like leaning into the truth of that like part of this is about a journey of discovery and a journey of intention. This is the path that I want to forge. You don't do that in isolation. You can't.
And I also think the most interesting people are the people who are just constantly looking to absorb new lessons from new people that they meet, in the world.
Yes.
No matter your age.
Right.
You have things to learn and
are you
ways
curious?
to grow.
Are you interested? Are you open?
Right.
Right. Yeah. I love that. They begin their morning exercises, their training. Thunder immediately takes a shit. We opened episode 1 with a shit. We opened episode 2 with Arlen taking a piss.
Yeah.
And we open episode 3 with a shit. I can't wait to see what episode 4 brings to continue the pattern. But if you'll allow it, I have been amused by this. We talked earlier in the Diarrhea Dunk episode 1 moment that some people were like, this is actually not for me, right? I have been very amused by this because I enjoy scatological humor. I just think this is funny, right? When done well.
It's not usually for me. I'm not like pissed about it, but it's not usually my thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me channel Eggs. Is Alice, Three-Fingered Alice's song really about honor and hope?
You need a cider in your hand while you're saying whatever you're about to say.
Could be the whole arm bone. Okay. So We have certainly dabbled in the bathrooms before, right? Tywin dies, spoiler, on a privy.
Sure does.
His horse, in a very memorable
does
moment.
Not shit gold. You know?
Does not shit gold. His horse does not shit gold either. Very memorable moment when he, rides into the throne room. The battle is over. We have won. And, his horse has taken a shit. We've just watched, etc. It's not like we've never seen this on Thrones. But, I should also shout out, of course, Shay, her iconic, legendary, cities make me want to fuck moment where she's just talking about how it smells like shit and cum and corpses and everything. It's Thrones.
Okay.
We've dealt with poop before. These moments really in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms so far feel effectively like they are rooting us in this is not a story set in the halls of power vibe.
Even though Tywin's horse literally shit in the halls of
He
power.
did.
Yeah.
He did. And that was like, oh, this is different. Whereas you could almost expect to see something like that in every scene of this show. Like, we're out in the muck. We are with our hedge knight and his squire and their horse, and we're going to hunt for goose eggs. And when we do that, we're going to have to mime to try to explain what we need. I understand genuinely why the tone is maybe not for everyone, but it feels to me like a very deft way of saying this is the setting and the sensibility, not only of our show, but of the main character's life and experience. He's a hedge knight. He's out among the muck and the mud.
I agree with you. I don't think you're even reaching as far as Egg reached to get to his Alice
just
interpretation.
Part arm bone?
Yeah, just half.
Maybe
half
just
up
the three
forearm.
fingers, not the whole arm bone.
Yeah, maybe knuckle deep. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. But, I do know what you mean, actually.
But there's also sitcom editing in these
yes, for
shows.
sure.
Like the cutaways, the constant cutaways, cutaways to Robyn Rysling's bouncing eyeball, you know what I mean? Or when he's thinking about Sir Andro, and he's just sort of Deathlands, we cut away to these things. And we mentioned the ending, the dun dun dun. This is almost sitcom editing, and I don't mean that in a negative. This is 30 Rock or Brooklyn Nine-Nine or whatever. We're just going to cut to something that is going to underline the joke.
The episode 2 opening, very emblematic of that. We talked about that a lot last week with Dunk saying these very almost overly sincere in an effort to compel things, and then we're cutting to Arlen pissing, Arlen whoring, whole hog indeed. Let me say, of all of the follow-up suggestions, thank you to the Bad Babies for all of the follow-ups about other things that we could have called Arlen because of his giant cock. I actually saw this one on Instagram. Can't remember where it was a meme. But shout out to whoever came up with the long night.
Oh.
Spelled differently. Winner.
Very good.
Incredible. I also thought the Giants Lance recommendations from the Bad Babies was really good and was upset about missing that.
I still like Sword of the Morning, but
It's very good. It's very
good.
But
the long night is very
long
good.
Night killed me.
It was very good.
Killed me when I saw that. Oh, man. Joe, we finally, we're getting this go Thunder, this encouragement. Thunder's galloping. I just thought this was so winning and charming and sweet. But then we get you loved this in the trailer, this overhead shot of Egg and his avatar Aang, cloak swirling, spinning moment. The tiny hands, am I going to be able to pick the lance anxiety that we talked about last week? Great stuff.
Guess what? Wart's back sooner than you thought.
Wart!
Egg running with the lance and the sword. Take it, Sir Doug, take it. Yeah. How did Arthur pull the sword from the stone in the first place? He was going to fetch a sword for Sir Kay.
Yes.
He was squiring his way off to grab a sword for his brother, who's not his brother, the knight that he's serving. And he's like, here you go. I pulled it from a stone. Please do. And then Sir Kay's like, Dad, look what I pulled from a stone. And his dad's like, did you? And he's like, no, Wart did it. He's like, well, Wart's the king. So, tough shit.
I love the voice that you just broke out. That was great.
I dissiociated. I have no memory of what I just did.
It was closer to the will that be boobs voice than great stuff. I love that connection because obviously what Egg, and again, bears repeating, he is a prince, so he doesn't need technically to prove himself worthy of anyone, let alone a hedge knight, but he is choosing to. He wants to be worthy of Dunk, to be a worthy, ready, capable squire.
As he said multiple times, I could if I want to.
Right.
Exactly. This is what he says when Dunk asks him this question. I could if I want to. And this is proving.
Yes.
I can do this. I want to do it. I'm going to do it.
That was one of my favorite things in this episode was the subtle but very clear shift in Egg's relationship to that idea, where the core idea is still the same, but in the first episode when we and Dunk meet him, it's very we use the word a lot and they use it in the canon a lot, this like insolent, kind of impotent, spunky, smart ass energy. And all of those same things are true, but like here in this moment later when Egg on the hillside asks Dunk, can I stay on with you after the tourney? Can I stay on as your squire? Technically, that is the same thing as him asking in the first place, can I go with you to Ashford Meadow and be your squire? I could squire for you. But there's a different feeling behind it. There is like a connection and a depth of feeling that has developed between the two of them, but also then something that Egg has learned just in this limited exposure so far to Dunk, to this life, to Ashford Meadow, to the tourney, about what feels good and right about this for him. I think I could be quite happy in a place like this. And so this idea here with Thunder and this training sequence of like, I want to be good at this. I could if I wanted. The pride that he has when Dunk says to him later, like, you're a good worker when you put your mind to it. And he's like, you think so?
Basking in the praise.
It's like so just this is a different thing for him. He wants to be worthy. He wants to be worthy of pulling the sword from the stone. He wants to be a worthy squire. I love it.
And something that Sarah, the director mentioned was talking about like, we'll get to the sort of the tasks that he performs, but like Egg discovering the joy of hard work.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, the sandwich that they enjoy at the end of that, like hunger is the most delicious sauce, right? Yeah. And this just sort of like, we've been working so hard.
Right.
We've really, really been trying. And all of a sudden, like we got goose egg. We got some, bacon, essentially.
Delicious.
We got some, I think, looked a little dry bread and
too much bread. Yeah.
That thing tasted delish because they worked for it.
Yes. Absolutely. I think
better than anything, any princely feast.
Right. Any of the, lovely food and grapes. The exact kind of meal that without totally knowing how right on the mark he was, that Dunk was gently
lamprey pie or whatever it was that he
had. I think on that front of like what kind of meal and banquet and feast was Egg just accustomed to as part of the rhythm of life at Summer Hall, at the Red Keep, etc. Similarly, like you think of what his training must be like, right? Trained by the master at arms at a great castle, like rigid, strict, formal. This is what a prince learns and when. And you could just see and feel so palpably and tangibly in this opening sequence and throughout this entire episode. He's like, I'm free. There's a freedom and a kind of like purity of connection to the experience that clearly he is tasting for the first time in his life, right? So it's awesome to see the impact that it's having on him right away and to think about where that might lead him in the future and what it might lead him to crave or desire. He is interrupted here by the arrival of Sir Robyn.
A frosty glass of Rhysling.
Sweet and crisp.
I hate a Rhysling.
I like it when paired with an appropriate course, like as part of a tasting menu, can be great. Can really hit in the middle of the meal.
Miss me with a Gewürztraminer. Miss me with any sweet wine. Miss me with I
love a port. At the end of the meal, a dessert wine?
Gross.
No? Like a nice cream sherry, a nice port? Wonderful.
As you know, I live in wine country.
Wonderful.
So I hope it doesn't sound douchey to say I've been to a lot of wine tastings in my life, and every single time they want you to end with a dessert wine, and I like try to be so polite. I'm like, I don't need that. Great. Thank you so much. And they'll be like, no, ours is different. Well, you'll like ours.
When we go wine tasting together, I will take your port, and I will take it happily.
Double port, baby.
I love a port.
Double
port.
Absolutely
love a port.
Gross.
Robyn is like, did you steal this horse? Egg has a whole bit of logic that he deploys. I would have just been like, no, I didn't actually.
I'm the squire.
I'm the squire. This is my knight's horse. I actually didn't understand that.
It was very weird for her to be like, sure.
Yeah, it was like a little clunky in an otherwise really smooth and great episode. But what it does effectively do is remind us once again of kind of the plight of a hedge knight or his squire and his rough spun, dirty cloak. The idea that people throughout the realm are always going to look at you and think, beggar? outlaw, robber, right? That there's a certain like expectation
Avatar?
and reputation. Avatar? Quick, egg, bend. Mistaken for a thief. And he's mistaken by a man who is barefoot, wearing an eye patch,
dirty,
rocking a just very Middle Earthian, really like incredible walking stick. This is Robyn, Rhysling / Rhysling, not to be confused with Poop Robyn. We've got more than one Robyn in the story.
Or any other character who might wear an eye patch inside of this universe.
I have been continuing my Battlestar rewatch inspired by Hooked.
Yeah.
I had gotten through season 2 very quickly.
Right.
And then...
Because we watched all of season 1 for that episode.
Season 1 for the pod, and then I was like, I can't stop now. I got to watch season 2. That's my favorite. And then had to pause for a bit because it was a very busy time. But we've been working through season 3, and so I'm on spoilers. Ty has his eye patch now, and it's just a lot of eye patch action in my life lately. Great stuff.
I love that for you.
I love it for me too. Thunder won't let Robyn take the reins, but he lets Egg soothe him. There's that connection, just a mini version of the moment Dunk had with Aerion's horse in episode 2, where he's like, I can calm you. Not everybody can. Lovely. Tells us a lot. Robyn's like, what's wrong with your hair? And Egg just fires back, what's wrong with your eye? And then he pieces it together. We are aided by the comical flashback that you noted. Here is how we learn about this in the text. One-eyed Sir Robyn Rhysling, just feels like it should be Rhysling, a grizzled old knight with a salt and pepper beard, lost his helm to Lord Leo's lance in the first course, yet refused to yield. So this is like the events at Ashford tourney in the text. 3 times more they rode at each other, the wind whipping Sir Robyn's hair, while the shards of broken lances flew around his bare face like wooden knives, which Dunk thought all the more wondrous when Egg told him that Sir Robyn had lost his eye to a splinter from a broken lance not 5 years earlier. Leo Tyrell was too chivalrous to aim another lance at Sir Robyn's unprotected head. Compare that.
Hell yeah, Longthorn.
to what Aerion does, Longthorn. But even so, Rhysling's stubborn courage, or was it folly, left Dunk astounded. So that last line, stubborn courage, or was it folly, left Dunk astounded.
Would you say that all men are fools and all men are knights?
Where women or jousts are concerned. This idea that Robyn is a knight whom Dunk admires and is astonished by is a little nugget from the text that we wanted to mention. But what does Egg say about him?
You're the maddest knight in the 7 kingdoms.
We are a vessel for the warrior, Robyn replies. When it is madness bid, it is madness delivered.
I like this idea of like heroism and foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
That through line of like Florian, of what Dunk does here at the end of the episode, which Aerion is like, you fool. Like,
oh my God.
Why on earth have you done this? Right. And there's something inherently foolish in this idea of heroism for Florian, for Dunk, for Robyn, Rhysling.
And Poop Robyn. A courageous post that he took on that branch. The buff diarrhea Dunk. Yeah, I love that because, we'll obviously talk about what Dunk does at the end, but it is like so drenched in the spirit of Dunk and the story, what makes a night a night. It is right. It is clearly right. And the fact that he is the only one who will do it, but it is reckless. Yeah. It is undeniably reckless. And that can all be true at once. I love that. The show, this is another character where part of this pattern that we've been tracking is like expanding the intro, heightening something about a character who is put in front of us. So this idea here for Robyn of this madness, that this is like a thing that Egg and that you get
a zealot.
Anyone would know. Yes, this fanaticism because of this tie to the warrior. There is a quote, Robyn prayed.
That's it.
Mentioned in the
built an entire castle on that grain of sand.
So, honestly impressive.
Yeah.
People are like, how do you guys do 2.5 hour pods on 30-minute episodes? How did we get this madness delivered from Robyn Braid? It's all in the same sauce.
Okay, can I hit you with this incredible 7 theory that I read?
Please.
Okay, so the 7, right? Mother, father, smith, maiden, crone, stranger.
Stranger. And the warrior.
This is a comment that I saw, and I'm so sorry. The commenter had a username that I cannot turn into English. But I want to say that I am reading this from a comment I saw. So I did not come up with this.
Okay.
So Robyn saying he is a vessel for the warrior reminds me of my old theory about the book that the 7 were present at Ashford tourney and that Dunk meets them unknowingly.
Mm-hmm.
Dunk meets with other personifications of the 7, the Smith being the most obvious both in book and show, Steely Pate.
My guy!
And the crone is also present in the show this episode in the form of the soothsayer who carries her coin cup in front of her like the crone with her lantern.
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely be keeping an eye out for more appearances of the 7 in the remaining episode and on the rewatch. So Smith, Steely Pate.
Yeah.
Crone, fortune teller. The actress who plays a fortune teller is also the actress who played the innkeeper in the first episode, which is wild, and we can talk about it a bit more when we get there. But that shout out Aziz from History of Westeros for figuring that out. Huh. The maiden, I will say Tanselle in this episode has this like Virgin Mary, like light blue sort of head cloth piece, very maiden in my opinion.
Yeah.
Father could be Baelor or Sir Arwen.
Mm-hmm. Mother
could be the innkeeper, if you prefer. The warrior, Sir Robyn, and then the stranger, we can get to.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
Isn't that really fun?
I think that's great.
I love this shit.
I think that's
Thank
great.
you, commenter, whose name I cannot translate into it's like numbers and letters and I can't make it up. But
Dunk also
that was
the maiden.
Very, very, yes. That was very, very sick.
That's great.
And so let's
that.
keep tracking that. I really love it.
That's a fun one to come back to at the end of the season.
hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com if you have other ideas of but Steely Pate, as our Smith.
He's here with us always.
And
formalizing it.
There are ways in which, if you think about it, we talked about this idea that Plummer slightly softens, not even in this episode, but sort of when Dunk's back is turned, how do people look at him?
Yeah.
How does Baelor sort of look at him? How does Plummer look at him? How does Steely Pate look at him? I see something in you.
Yeah.
And this idea of little help along the way. I'll give you a deal on the armor.
Yeah.
The way in which, speaking of the Odyssey, the way in which the gods will show up and just sort of push things in a certain directions for a character.
I have things I want to say about this that I will refrain from saying until the end.
I have a note in the spoiler section if you want to talk about it.
Great.
Again
we can hit it again there. Yeah. And then certainly we should come. This is a great observation and theory. We should definitely track this across the season and come back to it at the end, because I think the larger question of the will of the gods is always on our mind in a Game of Thrones story. This one is no exception. Also, it just reminds me of little things that we've been tracking from the trailers and now through the season, why is the 7-pointed star in this setting, etc. Mm-hmm. So there are other little bits of even just set deck that kind of reinforce, okay, however actively or subtly, have this in your mind. This is a great one. Yeah. Great stuff. Username unknown.
Unintelligible.
Thank you, username unknown. So the warrior, one of those 7 aspects. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the warrior for just another second here. As you noted on Talk the Thrones, associated with strength in battle, we can think of our knighting vows that we've gotten to witness a few times. In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave.
Have you watched Hamnet yet?
No, actually, Adam told me that it's on demand as of last night. I think we'll finally watch it this weekend.
Oh, I'm not here. Can we watch it together?
Absolutely.
Can I just sit on the couch and cry with you?
That would be great.
Anyway, there's a line that's in the trailer, so I don't think it's a spoiler, where Paul Mescal is Shakespeare goes, "Will you be brave?" And it's
speaking of just classic text, did you see the Instagram reel going around last night of Jonathan Pryce giving Paul Mescal his copy of Hamlet from drama school that had his original notes in it?
That makes me think of how far into Wonder Man have you gotten?
Oh, I watched it all in one sitting. Yeah. Thought it was fantastic.
When Trevor's this tradition of handing down the skull and he's and I stole it for Richard Burton.
Yeah,
I nicked it for Richard Burton.
I thought Wonder Man was absolutely
I did too.
Sensational. Loved it.
I'm the timing is really funky. I loved Wonder Man, and I'm bummed that we
always do a seasonal mailbag. Maybe in a few weeks we'll do a winter mailbag. We'll hit some Percy, some Wonder Man, some Fallout in one place.
But please don't take us
We're watching all this stuff.
Yeah, please don't take us not covering it as an indication of quality, because it's really good.
Wonder Man was awesome. Just
also
fantastic.
Tom Hiddleston has a story. I think it's Brana who gave Hiddleston his copy of Hamlet. This is a thing that people do. Yeah.
Who would you give your copy of Hamlet to, if you could? CR?
I'm gonna have to think about that. CR has his own copy of Hamlet. He doesn't need
I know.
my copy
CR's giving out copies to people, no question. A favorite night, a favorite of many a night. Jamie, our guy Jamie, Barristan Selmy, our guy Barristan, etc. And this is also like an honorific that characters in the world will use to praise, to really make sure that people understand what somebody achieved out in the field. So there's a great line from The Sworn Sword, the second novella, where a character who we won't specify, who will be quoted elsewhere in this pod today too, says, Damon Blackfire Rebellion, always here with us. Damon was the warrior himself that day. Like, it's shorthand for making sure somebody knows that he was like a god among men out in the field. I
hope people rewatch this season and enjoy, who didn't know the reveal, enjoy like Aegon being like, you Blackfire bastards, like knowing that fantastic stuff. He's a Targaryen.
Delicious rewatch. Yeah, delicious really reread. The best. There is, of course, a more formal tie elsewhere in the timeline between the faith and the warrior specifically, and knights, the warrior son, the faith militant, not active at this point in the timeline, had been disbanded by our guy Jaehaerys. Tommen and Cersei, High Sparrow, not here yet to bring it all back. And that went fine.
Oh, it was totally fine.
But you see Robyn for just like a second and you're like, he would fit in.
We should connect religion and the military more often, I think.
Robyn would definitely have thrived elsewhere in the canon. That much is clear. I mentioned this on Sunday, but like I got, even though obviously Thoros of Myr is Lord of Light, lore, still a little bit of a Thoros vibe, just to, you used the word, a zealotry earlier, like this idea of a devout man with a sword in hand who is fighting for a deity. And then you pair that with like just the actual grammar and language choices here, Robyn's first person plural use of we, like lumping himself directly, not only into the idea of like the army of the warrior, but the warrior himself, this godly aspect, dangerous. Like when you do that to justify your deeds, dangerous. New variable to throw into our season-long examination of this question of what makes a knight a knight. Well, Robyn might say it is the fact that I am acting on behalf of.
I'm the physical embodiment of the warrior. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Little confident boast from Egg at the end of this encounter. Your small fur squire. I serve Sir Duncan the Tall. He is large enough for the both of us. We've not heard of him. You will. First of all, just epic hype man stuff from Egg here, but also, we know how the episode ends. Everyone's about to know who Dunk is, just not for the reasons that he intended.
We've not heard of him. Like, you will. There's a bunch of stories about him. You'll hear about him.
Oh man, every time I see that cover and I see the shield, I just get emotional.
I know. Here's a beautiful shield. This is, it does have this soon to be an HBO original, but it's not the tie-in, and so I do like that about it.
Yes, I can't. It's a pet peeve of mine, as stated many times, when they swap in the show art on the cover.
Actually, I have a copy that doesn't have this on it, but it's back home, and I actually got.
Yeah, you got your road copy. Yeah. With your glitter highlighters.
Yeah, with my glitter highlighters. Nobody needs to know about.
I love it. It's great. Do you have different colors for different characters or for different?
Yellow is for like quotes taken directly, and then green is for like descriptions that are like accurately translated onto the screen.
Love a color coding. I do it too.
And then those highlighters have glitter in them, as I told you accidentally. I got glitter highlighters, and I got them to the checkout. I saw they had glitters, and I was like too embarrassed to like say I didn't mean to. So this is the world we live in.
Great stuff. Remember gel pens when we were kids?
Sure do.
They had some glittery, like
sparkly green one that I will
really good.
Never forget.
Did you like draw on the hand drawing? Do the drawings on the back of the hand? That was a big thing in my middle school. Pen, no? Interesting. Trapper Keeper? Yeah. Fuck yeah. Carlos, do you know what a Trapper Keeper is? Jesus. You don't know what a Trapper Keeper is?
No idea.
This is our version of a couple weeks ago when Sean and Amanda in this very studio asked Jack Sanders if he knew what a beeper was, and he had no idea. But then at the end, he was like, "Wait, are you talking about a pager?"
Oh,
so he did know, but like, not really. It's just we're all old, except for you. You're young, I was like, you don't know what a Trapper Keeper is.
Have I told you that like when I was a kid, I was like such a problem in class that they made me go sit at the isolation table? Okay, so I went to Montessori school where we all like sat in these like tables where we sat around or whatever, and my memory, which is spotty at best, was that I convinced my table mates to like, we all put our Trapper Keepers up and we pretended that we were like on the Starship Enterprise.
Love
and this was like our console or something like that.
Great.
They booted me to a table just by myself in front of a fish tank because they were like, Joanna's too disruptive. And then I would just stare into the fish tank and then they put me back at the main table because I was too dim-witted to sit in front of a fish during the class.
I would not say dim-witted. I would say inventive.
Sure.
Curious, creative.
And then they sat me in front of a television
on full display.
They sat me in front of a television and I made a career of it. So here we are. Here we are.
There you go. Of a piece, all of the different people who influence our lives,
including those fish,
and help us decide who we're going to be. Morning chores. Mm-hmm. Dunk is sitting by his elm when Egg and Thunder return, and the look on his face, this vulnerability. There's like the actual, if Egg left and took my horse and took my sword, we've heard this over and over again. We've talked about this idea of like, I must risk all. Do you have the coin? No, I need to sell Sweetfoot to get the coin, to get the armor, right? There's the literal, like, if this happened, if Egg fucked over Dunk, he would have nothing. He would not even be able to be a knight, as we've heard him say it many times before. But obviously there is something much bigger going on here.
Trusted him.
Trusted this boy, brought him into his life, and grew attached. And that moment of waking up, I love that. I don't think that Dunk really ever actually thought that Egg left, but it's like a moment that forces him to confront. I feel like the fact that he was just kind of like quietly sad versus like really angry felt to me like confronting the vulnerability and this idea that he's gone from only having Arlen to only having Egg, not necessarily like, I actually thought you did this to me.
I love that interpretation. I have a very different one in this. So here's a couple things I will say. I've been asking myself, I think Peter Claffey is like so good in this show.
He's great.
I think he's so good. But I have been asking myself, like, is he a really good actor or did they just cast the perfect guy for this? As you pointed out, like he plays basically the same character in Bad Sisters, right? Like pretty much Dunk in Bad Sisters. Would you not say? Except that he fucks, but like other than that, very similar. Anyway, and then also like later in this episode, he's vomiting while Egg is singing, and that is taken from the fact that Peter Claffey vomited in the production's offices when he was auditioning for this show. They took that and put it in the show. So like, I'm like, is he a great actor? Because he was like an athlete before. He's not like a trained actor. Or is he just the perfect guy? His performance here, I thought was so, and at the end of the episode too, I thought were such good acting moments that I was like, no, this guy can like, I don't know how wide his range is, but like he is really doing something here. And it's because I really recognized this is how I, in my less emotionally regulated days, would react to being really angry about something is I would get like really quiet and just sort of like, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like kind of like snippy and terse, but also like I would be angry, but I would be so hurt too. And that was just like all in the brew. And I just like felt like I really recognized that in his face where he was like, this is what he was sewing instead of crying is like what it felt like to me. You know what I mean? And like that just like it broke my heart. His reaction here where he was just like, and he gets kind of like blustery and mad and like tries to sort of act the way that Arlen would have acted. And then he just sort of like is able to self-regulate, which is not something that I could do at that age. But like, you know, Dunk is a more emotionally evolved person than I was at like 20, whatever he's supposed to be. So, you know.
Yeah, I like the way that in the fear and the anxiety and the hurt and the anger that he falls back on old habits, like the comfort of routine, you know, the things
Lost
that he knows
his squire,
and can
so
control.
He's got a squire again. I don't need him. I can sew my own stuff.
And in fact, you don't know. Do you know? No? Then why are you asking? Like, go brush thunder. That was all great. And I think the like, okay, well, I want breakfast, we'll eat after. You can eat after, you can eat my fist. Like these learned almost like tics, right? Well, that's what Arlen would say to me. But you know, the cloud in the ear through line, that's not actually who Dunk is or wants to be.
Right, which is like Egg deciding he doesn't want to take Mika's lesson. Right, Dunk's like, is every Arlen lesson worth hanging on to?
Right.
Or should I pick and choose? Our listener Jordan wrote, I know that there are those who have been dismissing the Dunk and Egg story as, quote, just another lone wolf and pup, end quote, tale. But I think this episode made it clear, if the previous had not, that this is a tale of sworn brothers. The way Dunk teaches Egg to sew, make sure he has a proper meal that isn't hard and salt beef, and clearly finds joy in sharing the tourney with his squire. And the way that Egg is already protective of Dunk, drilling in the early morning to make sure that he and Thunder won't let him down in the joust. This is a chosen family tale. The writers have made that even clearer when they had Egg tell Aerion in front of everyone that he cut his hair off so he wouldn't look like him. Egg may have a family by blood, but they make him ashamed, and he wants to put as much distance between them and him as he can. Dunk had a family once, but he never knew them, and he clearly longs for a sense of belonging the only ever had and lost with Sir Arlen. This show is about bringing these two lost boys together and letting them be for each other what their own families never were, and I think that's just lovely.
It's our favorite thing.
I thought that was beautiful from Jordan. We love it. I will say a lot of Lone Wolf and Pup and Cub tales are
found family tales.
Found family tales, but I love this idea of like sworn brothers as like sort of a different way to frame this particular narrative.
I think that the moment we get actually shortly after this, when Egg says, "Sir, is it odd that I have black hair growing out of my stones?" and Dunk's like, "It's odd that you're telling me," was obviously very funny. It's a comic moment, but I think it really hits that too, because that's one of the like moments where you feel, okay, Egg doesn't have anybody in his life. Now that Aemon, who he does have a love and affection for, is off to the Citadel, you're like, who would Egg say this to? Who would Egg talk to about just growing and changing? Dunk is instantly that brotherly figure for him.
Do you think he was most concerned that there was hair or that it was dark hair when he is so blonde? God, he's doing it.
Oh God. This is just a great story and a great world. He learns the whip stitch, as you mentioned. And I love the way that they are taking these tasks, learning to sew as seriously as training with sword and lance. It's like, again, that humble, crucial work that we talked about, that clean the sword, scour the mail, patch the clothes, maintain our life and take pride in our life.
Can I hit you with a little young Griff?
Please, because the show never did.
Yeah, young Griff, who people watch the show, who like, I've watched every second of Game of Thrones. Who the hell are you talking about? Anyway, young Griff, a character in the books that never made his way into the show, but was like a potential for the throne. Mm-hmm. And this is what Varys says about him in the A Dance with Dragons epilogue, the last thing that George R. R. Martin has published in this particular narrative many years ago. Quote, "He has lived with the fisher folk, worked with his hands, swum in rivers and mended nets, and learned to wash his own clothes at need. He can fish and cook and bind up a wound. He knows what it's like to be hungry, to be hunted, to be afraid." And Varys says all of this as in he would make a great candidate for the throne because he has done all of these things.
Yes.
He has grown up in humble circumstances, and being among the people makes him an excellent candidate for the throne.
Like everything else in a Game of Thrones story, there are characters who would see that as a virtue and characters who would
a peasant king
see it as a demerit, which will come up time and time again. We talked about this on Talk the Thrones, but how can Egg not make us think here in this moment, certainly on the hillside when he says, "I think I could be quite happy in a place like this." Like, how can Egg not make us think of Arya? You shared those beautiful quotes last episode, last deep dive about the Hound. We've talked about how Arya and the Hound are like one of the influential Thrones pairings for Ira Parker. This idea with Arya specifically, I love that like literally we get a sewing scene with a sewing needle here to really cement this connection for us.
But the opposite, right?
But the opposite side of it, because for Arya, it's like, okay, sewing needle? No, a needle of my own. When Jon gives her a sword, and of course, her sword's name is Needle. That's not me idea that Arya voices to Ned in season 1, of course, recurring later, saying to Nymeria, beautiful, sweet Nymeria, that's not you. That's not me idea for Arya that is so core. The thing that I was raised to be, that tradition, that the realm, that society, that norms say I must be, is not who I am and not who I want to be. And for Egg, I mean, the thing that they both have in common is, of course, they are like high lords, right? They're rich, they're from key houses. But for Egg, like this idea of, oh, I'm drawn to the sewing needle. What a perfect way to cement this for us there. Later on the hillside, we'll come back to this and really throughout the whole episode, but like, with Alice's song as well, Alice and Dunk are really paired in this idea of like, well, do you have to be the thing that you were born into? Do you have to be the thing that your circumstances would dictate?
Or wear it like armor?
Or Cripples, Bastards, Broken Things, right? And so Dunk and Alice are part of Cripples, Bastards, Broken Things tradition, a proud Thrones tradition. Egg is like on the other side of that, right? He's like, I want to lean into this like purer expression of the thing and shed, much as Arya did, shed the finery and the expectations of like my name and my birthright. Will that continue to be true? I mean, that's true for Arya until the final minute that we're with her. Will it continue to be true for Egg? We'll have to keep watching. But it's a great tie. And I love that we got the literal sewing needle to help us cement the connection there. They brush thunder together. Share the load. And then Egg jumps up on his tree branch. He is whittling a spear. And he's singing. At least this show's version of The Hammer and the Anvil. It's a shame that this aired the same night as the Grammys. Otherwise, perhaps we could have gotten a nomination and a live performance of either this or Alice's song.
Did you sing? Did you do like the Miss Susie had a steamboat had a bow?
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So this is like modeled after that,
yes,
right?
The tone. Yeah, the meter. I'm not a musical.
Well, that idea of like
yes, and then the
expected
word.
rhyme,
right?
The implied crudity. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite lyric from this?
Did you?
Boy, this was really great. It's hard to pick. I think that Baylor probably getting the giant veiny
host of Dornish Spearman.
When your mind is, of course, ready to hear cock. That's one more reason, of course, for Maekar to hate his brother. Song lyrics about his cock. Great stuff. That's probably my favorite part. But the whole thing was wonderful. I loved it.
Are you going to be thinking more about Baylor's host of Dornish Spearman or Sir Arlen's host of Dornish Spearman?
Why not both? It's a real why not both. Mm-hmm. In The Sworn Sword, later, again, a character who we won't name here says, the hammer and the anvil, the old man's mustache gave a twitch. The singers leave out much and more. So for certain characters, we mentioned Barristan Selmy last week when talking about last episode, 100 years into the future of the canon, they're like, the hammer and the anvil. Fuck yeah. And then there are other characters who are going to say, like, who prints the legend, right?
Sure.
Who writes the history and who receives it? And not everybody.
Incestuous aliens?
Is it right? If you're like, these guys are incestuous aliens and they practice blood magic and they've enslaved our people, maybe you're not going to be humming this tune with joy in your heart.
I am hoping that we get a more formal version, like the real Hammer and the Anvil song, either this season or next season or something like that. So you think there's a moodier, more dramatic Reigns of Castamere version of this, not like in the spirit of Bear and the Maiden Fair? Right.
Interesting.
It's a song about the hammer and I think the Hammer and the Anvil is like a, Bronn would sing it before a battle sort of song.
And this is the pub remix. I love it. Dunk is puking in the background as Egg sings this tune. And then he kind of musters the courage to come up and say, all right, it's time. And Egg's like, you can't challenge today, my dude. Are you a knight of high birth and high renown? We're nearing the Egg reveal, but this is like yet another little nugget before that. Like, how does this kid know all this shit?
I also love just like how blasé is. It's like, that's not the rules, sir.
Dunk's like, why have I been puking all morning then? It's a mystery.
Which made me think of Shakespeare in Love.
Great film.
In that film. I don't know. It's a mystery. Something my family always used to say all the time.
I was just thinking a week or two ago about rewatching that movie, which I love, but I haven't seen in years.
A double feature with Hamnet? Let's think about it.
I'm in. Top Chef Ashford Meadow. Our boys head into the market town to procure breakfast supplies. Listen, when we covered the trailer, I was like, is that just a heel of dry bread? And you're like, it's going to be a sandwich. Turns out it was, in fact, a breakfast sandwich. Now, I love a breakfast sandwich. I love a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. One of my go-tos on the weekend, especially. I love a breakfast burrito. Not for weekdays. There's only so much time, but that's a weekend go-to. So I was very interested in the shared skillet for the goose egg and the bacon. This is great.
Are you making? You love to order.
God, no.
Yeah, you love
ordering.
To order. Okay.
I have been, though, in recent days. I've been making a lot of just like fruit and yogurt granola parfaits at home.
Yum.
Delightful. And then
no free ads, but do you have a favorite granola?
I get the 365, the Whole Foods granola typically. I have fallen prey to an Instagram algorithm viral recipe. I'm using recipe incredibly loosely. It's put one thing in another. I was served and watched once, and then of course this is how the algo gets you. You just are served more and more. Have you seen this video recently of people putting the cookies in the yogurt, and then like you put it in the fridge for 12 hours, and it softens the cookies and it takes some of the moisture out of it, and everyone's like, it's cheesecake. It's not cheesecake. It doesn't taste anything like cheesecake. But I was like, that looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. I got a breakfast biscuit, like a cinnamon tahini breakfast biscuit. Yum. And my preferred full fat Greek yogurt. Put those in, did the 12 hours in the fridge, scooped it, put some fresh strawberries on it. Absolutely wonderful. So good. Amazing. Delicious. Again, I would like to say it does not taste like cheesecake, but this is the delightful
most cooking I've ever heard you do. So I'm like actually very impressed by this.
You know, I do wish I love to cook. I just never do it because I don't have the energy. It's not even really a time thing. It's just like the energy. But I make a mean chili.
Oh, I believe
One day I'll make you a chili. Okay. Yeah, one day. It's been a minute since I've made it, but I do love to make a chili. Anyway, the algo got me. And for the first time ever, I was grateful. Not the first time ever. I like yogurt. I like a Greek yogurt. Yeah. Yeah. I like a thick yogurt.
Me too. Do you like a skyr though? Like a Siggy's?
I had that for the first time ever because that was the one that I saw most often in these videos. Yeah. And it was good. I did immediately go back to my preferred.
Okay. No free ads, but Siggy's is all I eat.
Yeah. I did like how creamy and thick it was.
Very good.
I don't know how to pronounce. What's the FAGE? Isn't it like Faye, something like that? That's my preferred. That's my go-to. Anyway, delicious.
Goose eggs. Have you ever had a goose egg?
Probably at like a LA or New York restaurant, but I've never gone and purchased one or like done the
squatted
Sam Cassell big balls gif. The Dunk is doing to try to explain what he wants. Tough moment for Tanselle to walk up and see him doing that.
Oh, our listener Emma wrote in saying, not Sir Dunk giving Tanselle the old Channing Tatum and she's the man. Do you like cheese?
This was so dumb. Like,
my pal Lindsay texted me to say, oh, he got his I carried a watermelon, which is from Dirty Dancing moment. So there are many versions of this in many stories, but 'twas an awkward moment for our guy Duncan. I gotta say, Tanselle gave him no help. Like no quarter here from Tanselle. Too bad. No. Like be a little nicer.
I did enjoy Egg coming up. It's like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Again, very brotherly. He's funny. Wearing his I'm a secret Targ, so I'm covering my head / we like to make our viewers think of Damon's murder cloak here on the House of Horror. I gotta say, he's wearing it here practical. Later, just as in the text, when he's introduced to Raymun, he's kind of like downcast. He doesn't want to be recognized. Mm-hmm. He in the show, especially given the proximity of where he and Dunk are standing at the list and Baylor like right across. Like I would bet he should be hiding who he is a little bit more
all the time
in the show.
Don't get on Dunk's shoulders and make yourself even higher.
Yeah.
Think about a hat.
You think you should just like wear a beanie?
Yeah. Think about a hat.
Yeah.
Hats historically have gone very well in House of the Dragon, so I'm sure they'll go well here. But I would get a hat.
Remember Kristen Cole's hat? You loved that thing.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Loved it. That's an incredible hat.
I love that Dexter talking about the cloak they had him wear, where he was like, the cloak is like 7 miles long, and I'm like constantly tripping on it. And like, indeed, when they're like sort of like, I want to leave, he like gathers it up to like his
it's like a wedding dress train.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a riot, man.
He's so cute.
I think it was on the Game of Thrones Instagram, maybe just even a couple days ago. I don't know. Time is a blur for me right now, but the clip of Daniel Ings, who plays Lionel, of course, being like, I had to get like, I'm paraphrasing, I had to get comfortable, saying all these like really foul, filthy things in front of this literal child. But like, it's the material.
And he was fine with it, is what Daniel Ings said. He's like, I don't like cursing at all.
But it's my job.
But I do, it's my job. I don't like cursing at all.
He's a riot.
He's so cute.
He's the best.
Protect him.
Please. They fry up this breakfast at camp. Unlike in the text, Dunk partakes. And the text is like, he wasn't going to joust, but still, stomach like a stone. No, he's ready to chow down here. The whole fish. Now this. of course, we're thinking to the pledge that Dunk makes in episode 1 to ensure that Egg will have food in his belly. This is one of the things he says to him. I don't have much, but if you prove worth your keep, you'll have clothes on your back and food in your belly. The clothes might be rough spun and food, salt beef and salt fish, but you won't go hungry. So right away, it's like, this is more than that. This desire to...
Frankly, dry looking, but... Well, I will say, if they keep
Simpsons Halloween special turkey's a little dry.
If they keep that goose egg yolk a bit runny, then perhaps that...
Moistening the bread.
Softened up the bread. It's just
I think it's a loose yolk in the sandwich for sure.
Of course it's a loose yolk in the sandwich. You don't want a hard-boiled egg in your sandwich, but I would have done the noxious trend that I've seen in LA, which is hollowing out the bagel.
Yeah.
Don't do that to a bagel.
No, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that.
Actually, what they really should have done is just less bread.
Yeah. I think there's just way too much bread.
Way too much bread.
I mean, I get it. They want to carb load for the day ahead, but
turn that other half of the loaf into toast or something like that. You know what I mean?
Great idea. Great idea.
You gotta mind your ratios.
I really agree. I am not a fan of a dry sandwich. It's time for the day's jousting to commence. Listen. This is the House of R.
Damn me.
Change is the only constant in life, some say. No, there are some actual constants in life. And it's us talking about the Beesbury family whenever we can. Whether or not there's really a reason to.
Humfrey Beesbury is a character in this story. And unlike Robyn Rhysling or Lionel Baratheon or Raymun Fossaway, they have not decided to expand his
we got some
role
dancing.
in any way.
Some dancing in episode 1, thank God.
Essentially.
We got this flash in the trailer of Humfrey Hardyng and Humfrey Beesbury, their lances clashing and exploding.
The battle of
clashing,
the Humphreys.
The battle of the Humfrey. A fabled moment at this tourney. We got a flash of the shields, of recognizable sigils in the trailer. We're like, oh, fuck, we're getting it. We're getting all, each of them, they bring 12 lances. We're getting it all. No, it was the exact same length in the actual episode that it was in the trailer. It was a flash.
It was a skirmish of Humphreys. Horrible.
Sir Humfrey Hardyng and Sir Humfrey Beesbury, a bold young knight in yellow and black stripes with 3 beehives on his shield, splintered no less than a dozen lances apiece in an epic struggle the small folk soon began calling the Battle of Humfrey. We love this stuff at Attorney. These
They're
little nuggets that become...
too.
They are. They're brothers-in-law.
It's a brother-in-law versus brother-in-law.
Imagine if your brother-in-law, if you were named Humfrey and your brother-in-law was also named Humfrey. That's just wild. George.
And then you battle each other. And also you spell your name Humfrey that way.
Great stuff. You shared some Humfrey Hardyng bio details last episode. But let's refresh in case anybody didn't listen to that, given that he is about to be part of a seminal moment in this story when Aerion challenges him. Let's refresh folks on who this guy is.
Do I get to read this quote?
Do it.
Let's do it. The 4th pavilion was sewn together from diamond-shaped pieces of cloth, alternating red and white. Dunk did not know the colors, but Egg said, because he's a Targaryen, Egg said they belonged to a knight from the Vale of Arryn named Humfrey Hardyng. He won a great melee at Maidenpool last year, sir, and overthrew Sir Donald of Duskendale and the Lords Arryn and Royce in the lists. He's a badass.
He is. He's real 5-star prospect. All the colleges are making offers. He's got his choice. He could go anywhere.
This is why Aerion,
much like Buffy in season 3,
he can go to any school.
Can't wait to talk about this.
Okay.
He beats, if memory serves, he wins 14 jousts on day 1 of the tourney in the text. He's legit. So on the one hand, when Aerion challenges him later, he's kind of you're the no-name of the bunch, but also he's you've shown your
I think he's going for the badass, and then
you're legit, and then
he's
gonna do something terrible. He sure does
to destroy him. He splinters his leg, just obliterates
do it in the Raymun voice. Shattered like a baking dish.
Shattered like a baking dish.
Wild.
So
he's delighted when he says that. I'm why?
But it's just he's not content to beat him.
No, he has to embarrass him. He has to befoul something holy.
Him.
Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible guy. Chris Ryan's favorite.
Yeah,
and he sanctioned all the methods.
Do you know who hated a joust? Merlin. Can I read you some quotes from TH?
Please.
Merlin
please
hates a joust. Merlin grumbled about athletics, saying that nowadays people seem to think that you were an educated man if you could knock another man off a horse, and that the craze for the game was the ruin of scholarship. Also, a few pages later, quote, a lot of brainless unicorns swaggering about and calling themselves educated just because they can push each other off a horse with a bit of stick. They are games mad. So, yeah.
Listen, here's my note to Merlin. You wouldn't like the ringer. It would not be for you. But I do think that we could sway Merlin with time. Not only with the poetry, like, let's make him watch Field of Dreams. Let's talk about baseball. But
you hired me to the ringer. I wouldn't say this about sports, but like
the analytics movement. Let's get some sabermetrics in front of Merlin. See if we can sway him.
You have not. I don't think you've converted me. I don't know if that was ever your intention in hiring me here, but
I don't seek to convert. I seek to support,
You made a Survivor watcher out of me, and that's as close as I think you're going to get.
I did share this nugget with Riley McAtee recently because he's like, who at the ringer is watching Survivor these days? Because they're, Riley and Tyson are prepping for season 50. Oh my God. And I was like, let me tell you who has become rabid.
I won my petting pool.
I told him. Did Plummer have any arrangements with you on the side?
Nope.
No comment? No comment. Yeah. Just notice how the nope turned into a no comment. Egg just loves sports, unlike Merlin. Egg fucking loves watching sports.
So does George.
This guy knows ball. I mean, George, I've said this on so many pods over the years. The fact that he is invested in both the Jets and the Giants is genuinely, to me, life's great mystery, but I do support him.
Yeah.
And I love when every now and then you go to Not a Blog and you're like, is there going to be a Winds of Winter update? And then, if we go back years to when, I'll mention Sam Darnold because he's playing in the Super Bowl this coming weekend. Shocking stuff when the Jets drafted him. It's like crunching Darnold tape for the Jets, crunching Daniel Jones Giants tape back in the day and just blogging about it.
Let him live.
Amazing.
Let him
George, unlike Merlin, would appreciate the ringer.
Absolutely.
The bro next to Dunk, they're having a blast watching. The bro next to Dunk offers him his wineskin. And Dunk takes a sip and he spits this out. The only thing in Thrones history that has been spit out of a mouth faster. Well, maybe not the only thing. Real Locke giving a desperately thirsty Jaime horse piss to drink energy from Dunk here. What did he spit out? What was this? Just a homebrew? Little homebrew? Not
just
the Fossaway.
Grain alcohol.
Not the Fossaway cider. That's lovely.
Toilet wine.
Yeah.
Here's an email from our listener, Tristan. Tanselle too tall, not too tall for me. Dunk too tall to stand in front. This is what Tristan wrote, and I really related to this. I find it really interesting that whenever Dunk and Egg are watching the tourney, they are always the very front by the railing. You think someone behind Dunk would have yelled at him by now because they can't see behind him. As someone who has been told many times in a theater, can you slouch down? And I do. It's part of a problem with my posture, I think, is there are people who are like, excuse me, actually, I went to go see no other
even in a stadium seating.
Depends on how steep the rise is.
Yeah. Okay.
I was at the AMC Burbank, not that one, but the other one.
There are 3, actually.
I went to the wrong one, and they're like, you have to go across the street.
There's even another one?
But within walking distance?
Yes.
Oh, God. Okay, anyway. I was at one of them. And I went to go see No Other Choice, the Park Chan-wook film. And
I really
one must be able to read the subtitles. And there was a man sitting in front of me.
Yeah.
There was barely any rise in this thing. There was a man sitting in front. And it was the first time in my life that I had to be like this the whole movie. And the theater was full because God bless LA. They love to go to the theater.
That's what I was going to ask is could he not have just moved?
Or could I have moved? I should have moved, but I couldn't. No. There was nowhere to go.
You were in your seat, comfortable.
He was in his seat, comfortable.
Well,
he's a tall man. He's allowed to be tall, but he was very tall, and I could not see over him. Anyway.
Oh, you could not see over him. I see. Yes.
I was the issue. Yeah. Or he was the issue. Anyway, point being, I could not read the subtitles. And many times people have been behind me being like, excuse me, tall woman, can you slouch? And I have. Slouched all through Hamilton. Because I'm like, this lady behind me paid really good money for this ticket. I feel bad.
The theater. Yeah. Dunk is very tall on his own. Dunk with egg on his shoulders, exceedingly tall. I do think that constantly in the show, people should be shouting at them to
down in front.
Yeah, down in front constantly. That should be happening all the time. We should note, in the text, Raymun does come up to Dunk and say, why aren't you watching in the viewing gallery? Like, all knights are welcome there. And it's about how Dunk is more comfortable among the commoners, among the small folk. But still, he could be further back.
Also, Egg's like, I'm not going there. Let me tell you what.
Yeah. Purple eyes. Purple eyes, Dunk. Come on. This is to stretch another very brotherly bit here where they're poking fun at each other. Hard salt beef, lovely food and grapes, disgusting ale. It's just this disgusting formation of something so charming that is about to be imperiled by Dunk's choice and Egg's big reveal. The morning jousts have commenced. There's a little bit of a break for Dunk and Egg. They head to this hillside, and we've mentioned this quote a few times.
Heartbreak feels good in a place like
Carlos, play that clip. Incredible. Carlos, let's hear what Egg says to Dunk in this moment and what Dunk says back.
I think I could be quite happy in a place like this.
You're in a place like this?
I meant for a while.
Ah.
The gentle yearning of I think I could be quite happy in a place like this was one of my favorite moments of the season so far. Again, just so Arya-coded, that positioning of where we get this moment on the brink of the reveal at the end of the episode, Egg's identity becoming known not only to Dunk, but to everybody. Dunk is a character who dreams of, aspires to something more while still holding on to like the sanctity of life as a hedge knight. You know, he's like, I want to end up above the salt. Says to Egg in episode 2, maybe the Dragon House would take me on. And then Egg, who that is his life, right? Craves something simpler. He's like, no pavilion? The lock, ours alone. Actually, this is lovely. And I find that I like it. And I find that like it fits me well, right? And I don't want to leave it behind. We will, of course, learn more in subsequent episodes about what has motivated Egg to like do this thing at all in the first place. But very clearly, just living the life of a Targaryen prince is not for him. There is something about this other way that is appealing to him. When you hear him say the things in this episode that he does about his father, either what he says to Thunder or what he'll say to Dunk later when Dunk's like, did you know your father? And he's like, no, not really. Like, of course, he's still maintaining cover there, but also it feels like there's a deeper truth of like, do I really know my father? Like, do I really know who he is? Is there a closeness there? And then you see what his fucking brother does.
To anyone, you know?
I don't think you can ever really know another person. That's one of my beliefs.
Don't you think you know me?
I think that there is joy and beauty and meaning in trying to know somebody and in getting to know them better than other people do. But I don't think you can ever fully, truly know. My fear, one of my like motivating, driving anxieties in life ever present is like, can you ever really know fully what's going on in someone else's head?
I think you're a bit unknowable, but I don't think I'm as mysterious as
oh my God,
are.
what?
Yeah.
No way. Definitely the opposite. Fascinating.
You have like...
I'm a mystery knight?
You have depths to you.
So do you.
Okay.
So do you. I've received a lot of text messages from my husband who is listening to the Rewatchables Wild Things pod about things I've said on that pod. So maybe I've really put a lot out there about my life headspace on this current day.
I'm working up to pressing play on that one. I feel like it's going to be heretofore undreamt of levels of depravity from you and Van.
Daydreaming about the future from Egg here. We hear he goes into some specifics, Joe, right? He's like, well, I'll lead a great campaign. I'll come back a war hero. I'll get a parcel of land, horses, oats, peas, cows. No fucking lambs. That cart ride really scarred him.
He's like, I don't want to talk about it. Are you ready
for the hand of the second most beautiful woman, daughter?
Because you get the first.
A shared future. Dreaming of a shared future.
Oh my God. Are you ready for our guy Wart to return?
Absolutely.
Here's Wart dreaming of his future.
Are lambs involved?
I should have a splendid suit of armor and dozens of spears and a black horse standing 18 hands, and I should have called myself the Black Knight, and I should have hoved at a well or a ford or something and made all true knights that came that way to joust with me for the honor of their ladies, and I should have spared them all after I'd given them a great fall, and I should live out of doors all the year round in a pavilion and never do anything but joust and go on quests and bear away the prize at tournaments, and I should not ever tell anybody my name. And I don't know. These boys dreaming of their future. Yeah. The one that Egg has in mind is not as sort of like tied up in like grand heroics, though he talks about campaigning for his lord and stuff like that. But there's just like a real link there to like this like dreaming of the future of like, who shall I be when I'm grown?
Yes, absolutely. I think back to like episode 2 as well, when we, heard Egg ask Dunk, like, you think I could be a knight? Which is now in the full context of who Egg is, an actually shocking thing for him to have to voice, because frankly, like, you're a prince, so you can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not what he means when he's asking. It's like, do I have the stuff?
You might as well like own all of the crabs in Duskendale. You can just Nepo baby your way to whatever you want.
Oh man, great stuff. I loved too this on the hand of the second most beautiful daughter, because of course you'll have the first. Not only this cementing of the fact that this fantasy that Egg has about the future is already one that he is envisioning Dunk. Dunk is inextricable, right? This shared future, but also this idea that like on the one hand there is a kind of surprising humbleness behind what Egg says there, given that he is a princeling, but also one that makes complete sense when you think fourth son of the fourth son, like he's not used to being first. Yeah, he's a Targaryen prince. He's a prince of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like
way down
not
the
at the top of the line, as we will talk about more later.
Line.
So that's present here too. This is that moment where we get where Dunk says that Egg is a good worker, and Egg just seems so not just pleased but proud. And then Egg asks if he can stay on after the tourney, and Dunk's like, I'm barely going to be a knight if I lose, but if you win.
And then he's definitely about to say yes.
If I win.
When Plummer shows up.
No question. Plummer is here.
And Egg knows that.
No question. Plummer is here.
Ebony Maw. My guy.
That fucker Ebony Maw.
Tom Von Lawler is so funny.
He's amazing.
Plummer is really, really great character.
Plummer and his phlegm have really consistently stolen
again, another comedy cut from the like hawking to the spitting in the like cutaway. You know what I mean? Really
absolutely. He has a proposition for Dunk. Little stroll by the stream. Just like to talk some match fixing with you. And, before he gets into any of the specifics with Dunk, he just wants him to know one thing. I believe we are both men of honor. Any man who must say I am king is no true king. You never want to have to open with, I'm honorable. Let me explain to you that I am honorable. Always a bit of a red flag. He tells Dunk, not sure if you can tell, but Lord Ashford, he's slightly overspent. It's overextended. He didn't budget effectively.
This is not what he thought the quinces would be.
Gwyn! He's a striver, and in the efforts to strive, he has taxed himself financially. And Plummer is working to throw one of Lord Ashford's son's matches. Androw. Androw. Great stuff. He would like Dunk to be the one to beat Andrew. In the books, both of the Ashford sons they're out of the tourney, they've lost, but like acquitted themselves well, and there's pride there. Rest assured, here are some of the things Plummer says. I mean no disrespect. I ask only what you already intend, right, to win. He says later, Dunk says, I do not want a victory I have not earned. And Plummer says, have you not earned it? And then he will end with, mind your pride, sir.
He also says, I mean not to rob you, but to reward you.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I'm not trying to rob you. I'm trying to help you. Very Gandalf, I thought, in that moment.
That's a good Gandalf impression.
Thank you.
There's a gravelly depth there that really is. It's perfect. I said this on Sunday. You did not feel this way about it. We won't linger on this because we don't want to spoil anything about like future events later in the canon. I'm like still a little puzzled by this because I think the fact that match fixing is part of a future, not later this season, but just future events in the canon, feels like scooping to me a little bit.
I'm not bothered by it only because I do think there's a character reason for it to be here.
That all worked for me really well.
Well, I think it's not just that Duncan has trepidation and honor around this, but that he's tempted by it as well, that he's still considering it when he talks to Raymun.
Yeah.
And I think that, temptation for Dunk is a constant theme throughout these stories. And
Definitely.
So I think that like
the pull.
I think it paints such a better, more complicated character that he's not just like, I would never, sir.
For sure.
That he's just sort of like, should I? I'm not sure what the right thing to do is here. But there's moral clarity for him in certain moments. When
Yes.
Tanselle's getting her finger snapped, there's moral clarity for him there. But he's not always clear on what the right thing to do is. He doesn't trust his instincts. In this post-Sir Arlen world, he's just like, he's like me when I try to buy a car. And I'm just sort of like, I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to fuck up. I'm too dumb to do this, you know? And so like, this is his like, should I do this? And also like, I'm learning so much about what knights actually do and what chivalry actually is and what honor actually is. And so I've had the scales fall from my eyes again and again. So is this just the way the world works? And I should just like get on board?
Right.
Is that what should happen? And
or
so
should
like
I rebel against that?
I hear what you're saying about it sort of like scooping a plot line from a later season, but I think then it will just sort of resonate more when it comes back. You know?
That is the other side of it for sure. And I think completely valid to like prep viewers for the fact that this is a thing that happens in the world. Now, like, of course, early Thrones days, you know, we're watching Littlefinger and you're betting on the cat's paw blade, you know, as a part of like gambling on joust is one thing, but the idea of like what is happening behind the scenes to influence an outcome, that's obviously like more centered here in this conversation with Plummer than what we had seen on the screen before. I think to your point about the character beats for Dunk, I thought it was a brilliant addition to the season 1 of this show for all of those reasons. I really agree. I think like it's such a smart choice to have Plummer ask Dunk to win instead of asking him to lose. You ask him to lose, well, like he'd get some coin in it, but he's worked to get to this. It's a much more complicated test of the thing that Dunk is seeking and the reasons behind it. Like, what is he trying to prove to himself and to other people? Why? What does virtue mean to him? Why? I think to the point about one of my favorite things about it was like to that point, continuing across the season, and this is a really big way, but it's been present in every episode to like chip away at the idealized view of these people who Dunk has deified.
He's just about to see what Aerion does and is so like, I can't believe a prince would do that.
Sir Manfred and all the lords don't remember who Sir Arlen is.
Right. And both Egg and Raymun are like, what do you mean?
Right.
You can't believe that he would do this. Like, of course he would do this.
Right.
Like, this is exactly who he is and who the royals can be and who knights can be, actually. Yes. So, like, and I love that they're surrounded constantly by, you know, the making of the night. Is that what they call the behind the scenes sort of featurettes that they've been putting out? Or a night in the making, maybe something like that. Anyway, talking about making the tourney field.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And all the braziers and all the like propane that they use and stuff like that. But they you know, they showed, and we've already remarked upon them, but like these knight statues, these statues of knights that Peter Claffey was like, reminds me of Wizard's Chess and Harry Potter. But like, but it matters that these like this ideal of a knight is enshrined in stone. Right. Because that's how it is in Dunk's head. This is what a knight is. It's this thing frozen in amber.
You're chipping away at something
and it's just sort of like crumbling right in front of him.
Yeah, and I really loved that aspect of this scene and this opportunity / test. I also really liked that we and Dunk must, of course, like note that Plummer is asking Dunk because he thinks he can. Like, because Dunk is a susceptible target because he's desperate, because he stood in Plummer's office and begged to enter the list, because
he could beat Sir Andrew.
He could, but he went...
Do you ride your horse into battle, or does he ride you?
Does he ride you? When the King's Guard come out to keep the crowd at bay, a rock got through to Arion's head, as we'll talk about, but I was like, man, wish those helms were not on. Was hoping to see my guy's handsome face again. Sad. Anyway, you know, the idea that he has no coin, though, like that's part of their exchange, right? He's like, Plummer explains to Dunk in the first episode, you know how this works? Like, you know what you're going to lose, what you're going to have to ransom. Right. And I won't lose. Okay, well, so like he knows what Dunk's circumstance is. Baylor and what Baylor, the grace that he gave to Dunk in the second episode, such a contrast. And of course, obviously, now that we know who Egg is, like Egg's embrace of Dunk, such a contrast to the truth, the unvarnished truth that Dunk is seeing in so many other figures. Now, Plummer's not a fancy lord or a fancy knight, but he's the steward and master of games who is representing this great house. Not a great house. Lord Ashford would say it's a great house. This house and this event, and like all of it chips away at Dunk's ideal. I really liked that mind your pride note, because as the passage we've shared many times, like a hedge knight must hold tight to his pride is one of the key lessons from Arlen that Dunk has carried with him and thinks about. So this idea of like the conflict between the thing that the person in front of him right now who's presenting him with an opportunity in a certain light, right?
For upward mobility. At what cost?
At what cost? The cost to your soul, the cost to your sense of honor. You fill your coin purse. Interesting moment for Dunk. Aerion Brightflame is here. He's back. The horn sounds, the jousting is set to resume, and the Bright Prince is here.
This is actually why I have my copy of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms here. I realize I've held up some book stuff. This is a video podcast sometimes, so you have to be watching this in order to see this. But I don't know if we can like zoom in, or maybe we'll just like insert this.
Yeah.
But before, Aerion barely sort of like acknowledges Baelor.
Yes. After a pause to dip his lance to Prince Baelor, a pause so brief that it was almost perfunctory. It's the description in the text. So good.
And then he goes up to Valar.
Yes.
And I just want to say that like there's been so much taken directly out of the book, but this illustration here, I don't know if folks can see it, is like exactly how Valar looks outside of his tent. It's like they just like copied it directly, which is really fun.
It's great.
Like not every single, there's another one that I wanted to show just so that like people can see like what the relative sizes are supposed to be. This is Dunk and Egg and Tanselle. He's just sort of like, she's Tanselle too tall.
Yeah, look how tiny the puppet is.
Dunk is like 2 feet taller than she is. And then Egg is like a little footnote in this drawing here. But like, this is, Gary Gianni's illustration. There's the graphic novel, but then this is just like the illustrated edition of, anyway. There are many moments that seem like taken directly out of the graphic novel, but this is one that I'm just sort of like, oh, they just copied this. And this was in the trailer even where we were like, I've seen this image before of Valar.
Which is interesting because as we've noted, but now can talk about more fully because we have this moment, Aerion is rendered differently.
Yes.
We do get this sick dragon helm, so the dragon iconography is present there. But do you want to read this passage, this description of him at this stretch in the tourney, and very dragon forward visual imagery?
Aerion, fashion influencer that he is, bore a 3-headed dragon on his shield, but it was rendered in colors much more vivid than Valar's. One head was orange, one yellow, one red, and the flames they breathed had the sheen of gold leaf. His surcoat was swirl of smoke and fire woven together, and his blackened helm was surmounted by a crest of red enamel flame. So they got like the tip of the helm very well.
The helm is awesome.
What I love in the behind the scenes is they were talking about how they like tried it with various dragon faces, and they're like, actually the scariest thing is a human face. So they did a cast actually of Finn Bennett's face and used that to like model the like skull, Lord of Bones almost-esque sort of like front
he
hair.
has the sharp cheekbones and the jawline.
But then the red enamel tipped crest is there for sure.
Great shit here. He rides toward the champion's tent, toward Valar and the image that Joe just showed. Briefly toys with him. Cousin, not to worry, I won't embarrass you today. Now again, Aerion Brightflame is the king's grandson, Maekar's second eldest son. We'll talk more about the family tree later when we go through where Egg sits in the line of succession at this moment in time. This is an insane thing. Challenging him actively would be insane, but even fucking with him, like I could embarrass you if I wanted to, is nuts.
It's very like Aemon Targaryen embarrassing his brother at the small council by speaking High Valyrian.
But that at least is in private.
Ish.
I mean, there are a lot of people in that small council
people
chamber,
in the room. Yeah,
this is out in public, in plain view of the masses. Like, there's this fascinating contradiction at play with Aerion across this episode, where he's really torn between like, I am embarrassed by my family and the state that our proud dynasty finds itself in, and I want to boost the Targ Q score by reminding everybody of how fierce and formidable we are. I am. But he's doing that by embarrassing them and opening them up to inciting rebellion and fomenting dissent.
Yes, certainly with what
mocking
he does
his
with Humfrey
cousin
Hardyng.
Second in line to the throne right now is like not good for the family.
Mocking his cousin who has dark hair, and he's like, you don't have to take this Targaryen seriously.
Yeah, take me seriously.
I got the platinum hair. I'm the dragon.
Exactly.
So when you think about Targaryens and you think about my uncle sitting up there fidgeting with his rings, with his dark Dornish hair, and don't take him seriously. When you think about next in line here, this guy sitting like an illustration outside of his tent, one little patch of lawn. Yeah. I'm the Targaryen here, you know, like that makes sense to me.
Oh, for
He's
sure.
not thinking big picture.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And Baelor is like, Jesus fucking Christ, this kid.
This is like one of the reasons that
this kid.
it is. I love the hair thing. We obviously talked about for Baelor specifically how for some people that's like a welcoming, more relatable aspect of him as a royal figure. But for others, they're like, why should I take you seriously as closer to a god than a man? The fact that Aerion and side of the family aligns with that thinking and that view, like holding Baelor and Valar and others with that, without the signature shiny silver locks is like a diminishment. It's just a great little touch. You know, we made the Viserys comp. There are plenty of maniacal Targs and maniacal non-Targs in Thrones history that you could compare Aerion to. Viserys from season 1 of Game of Thrones, one of the most delicious comps, unquestionably, aided, of course, as we've mentioned, by the fact that Harry Lloyd is the narrator of the audiobook. So you get to actually hear him reading Aerion's quotes, and specifically then getting to hear Viserys, who so memorably in season 1 of Thrones referred to himself as the dragon. You don't want to wake the dragon, etc. Say it's time you face the dragon line. Yeah. Really fun part of listening to the audiobook. Danny, what'd she say of Viserys? He was no dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon. Jorah Viserys is less than the shadow of a snake. Well, what would they say about Aerion? I think we know. Egg shots kill him as the joust begins. And Dunk is like, what?
He's right there.
Doesn't know at first who Egg is saying this about. Now, Aerion is a monster. We are about to see that very clearly in multiple ways in this episode. It's clear why Egg hates him. We will, of course, hear more about their relationship. I still think it is chilling to hear Egg say, kill him, about his own brother. Not sure if you know this. No man is as accursed as the kinslayer.
But if Humfrey Hardyng does it, did he really kinslay? It doesn't say
outsource the kinslaying.
No man is as cursed as someone who roots for
kinslaying. That's a great point.
As Egg's legal representative, I have to say, innocent of all charges.
In the eyes of this podcast and the eyes of gods and men. Second charge. What happens here? What does Aerion do?
Goes right for the neck.
Why did CR think this was okay?
It's a question for his therapist, I think.
This is terrible. You explained in prior pods, terrible things happen at tourneys, but there is a code.
There's a code. There's like ways in which like we get a flash of Sir Andrew in this episode, sort of charging down a Stokeworth, kind of before he's ready.
Shout out Lawless.
But those are still like within the bounds of what we do here. Or we talked about how like Leo Longthorn like went well out of his way so as not to trample someone else inside of the 5-on-5 tourney joust that we saw. And so the fact that Aerion, like even Dunk can tell the lance is dipped too low. He's going straight for the neck. Is hideous.
And things happen in tourneys that then people can debate. Well, what was the intention? Or was this an accident?
There's no question here.
Right. This is not a mishap, as Egg will say to Dunk. You know, I mentioned this on Sunday, but like Loras Tyrell and the tourney and the Hands tourney and Thrones riding out with a mare who's in heat to like spark a certain reaction from the mountain's horse. Obviously, a terrible thing happens to a horse in that sequence as well because the mountain is a monster, tough one. There is a violation, like a befoulment of the exercise from Aerion here that is, to your point, so naked. Right? He's not trying to hide it. That's part of the point, to remind everybody that he can do what he wants because he is the dragon. He looks pleased as punch. Yeah. When Humph goes down, his horse is screaming, he's screaming. But then the small folks start to riot and throw rocks at his head. And this is very nostalgic for Game of Thrones viewers in a number of different ways. How can we not think of season 2? Cow pie to Joff's face, legendary moment. But even more recently, the riot in House of the Dragon. And both of those examples, starving cities, wartime, blockades, What is getting through? What do people need? Why are they blaming the royals? We've talked a lot about the Blackfire Rebellion 13 years ago. This is, relatively speaking, peacetime in Westeros, relatively speaking.
But Targaryens in their flop era.
But Targaryens in their flop era. It's wild stuff. Like, the Kingsguard should not have to ride out to protect the prince from the throngs, but Aerion incited this on purpose. All right, so let's talk about the no dragons thing. We've talked about this all season.
Because if they threw a rock at Aerion and he could jump on his dragon
and burn them all alive, burn them all, they just wouldn't do that. It's just not a thing that they would do. But they can here because he doesn't have a dragon.
I mean, it's why Raymun feels like he can say what he says after his 3 Fossaway Ciders as someone on Did you see that thing on Twitter?
My God. He was in his cups.
Someone posted, me, I promise I won't get political. Me after 3 Fossaway Ciders. He's like, they're incestuous aliens.
This is great stuff.
But yeah, I mean, everyone feels freer, but not entirely free. I mean, but this is the problem. Baylor's like, we're on a tour of kindness and comfort, and we're just,
this is a diplomatic mission.
We're shaking hands and we're kissing babies, and we're
Daddy
just being just like really, really cool here in the Reach. We're cool. We're vibing with people. They said that thing about him fucking a sheep. We all laughed. It was funny.
Yeah.
Everything. We're cool. It's fine. And then Aerion shows up and does this shit, and everything's not okay. Right. And we have to bring the stormtroopers out, and the riot police have to show up. You know, the Ashford men are like running towards the tourney fields as Dunk and Egg are walking away.
Yeah, so. Aerion is cruel, but also a moron. Like, this is an incredibly stupid thing to do. I think that when the rock hits him in the head, the cut to Baylor and the look on his face and that undeniable truth. Okay, they wouldn't do this if we have dragons. We're in this vulnerable position. But also this question that we track across thrones, it's something we ask now about the Targaryens, but it's not the only time we've asked that about a family. Like, what does it mean if you're no longer a house to be feared, right? This is something that Tywin voices very memorably to Jaime in season 1. If another house can seize one of our own and hold him captive with impunity, we are no longer a house to be feared. Then, as is often the case with Tywin, this becomes a speech about legacy, right? Your mother's dead. Before long, I'll be dead. And you and your brother and your sister and all of her children, all of us dead, all of us rotting underground. It's the family name that lives on. It's all that lives on. Not your personal glory, not your honor, but family. Do you understand? Aerion needed that speech.
And this is true. I mean, when Tywin dies, the Lannister position is greatly undermined.
Right. It's like you don't want to find out what happens when you're no longer a house to be feared. And Aerion made sure that they started to find out. We hear Viserys and Hot D say to Rhaenyra, like, everyone says Targaryens are closer to gods than men, but they say that because of our dragons. Without them, we're just like everyone else. So that's really present here. When we get to Raymun's treasonous speech to Dunk, the Blackfire Rebellion is also clearly part of what is fueling that, as is the dance. There's other stuff at play there.
Other stuff to talk about there,
for sure. That is fueling what he says there. But the dragon thing is just undeniable right here. And then the reaction from the crowd is part of what will fuel Aerion's response to the puppet show. This is all connected really deliciously across this episode.
But it's interesting because, like, I feel like, Joffrey's a great comp because there are ways in which Joffrey and Aerion are very different. Aerion's reaction to what Dunk does is this like curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And Finn Bennett talked about that in the behind the scenes stuff like that, which is, Joffrey would have stamped his foot and thrown a temper tantrum. He also wouldn't have been the one breaking the fingers himself in the first place. You know what I mean? That's not his way.
Right. Well, unless he's got a cross
and someone's tied up literally. But I don't think he could have like held
in the bed chamber.
I think Tanselle could have beat the shit out of Joffrey is what I'm saying.
No question. Yes, you're right. He's much more inclined to be like, I'll give him a red smile when he's not going to be anywhere in the position to do that. Yeah.
But he would have stamped his foot and said, I'm the king. Like, how fucking dare you? You know what I mean? And like, Aerion's
killed them all. Yeah.
But there are ways in which they're the same in terms of this like blinkered privilege of just sort of like, I'm going to do this thing and everyone's going to be so impressed with me, the leader, and they are going to bow down and be so excited that the Targaryens are here to kill horses. Like it's just, it's madness, but it's blinkered privilege too. So also, the way that Egg reacts here, like Egg is devastated because he's a horse girl. And also like, he knows firsthand Aerion's cruelty, which we will learn a bit more about, but they just sort of like, they run away. He's so upset. here comes my guy Wart again. This is like in A Sword in the Stone, Wart is so excited by the idea of attorney that Merlin makes two knights fight so that Wart can like sort of experience what this is. And it's violent and it's horrible and it's not at all what he likes. And so he says, "Oh dear," exclaimed the Wart, feeling ashamed that his bloodthirstiness had been responsible for making these two knights joust before him. Do you think they will kill each other? So like this idea of just sort of like, we've seen Egg go like, the tourney rules. This is so cheering for? Fun. I love this. Like, I'm having the best time. Like the way that Dexter just said like, so many different times in so many different scenarios to be like, this is horrifying. Now, obviously, that is very specifically pegged to Aerion, but it's also like a reality check moment for him. For sure. You know, Dunk is constantly bumping up against his reality checks. And this is just a real like Egg seeing the world for what it is a bit more clearly than he did that morning, you know? When he's like, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Well, it's interesting too, given like his love for the puppet shows. You know, what is theater? And then what horror potentially lurks on the stage or out in the field. This is where he voices that Aerion meant to do it. And Dunk is like, he knows it. He knows it's true, but he can't accept it. The passage in the book is, it had looked that way to him as well. But it was hard to accept that any knight could be so unchivalrous. Least of all, one who was blood of the dragon, which Dunk will in essence voice to Raymun later. It's time to reflect because it's been a lot to take in. Jousting's done for the day. Party tent time, sipping cider, reflecting, and listening to a shirtless and crowned Lionel and co. sing about Dear Sweet Alice. Boy, we thought the lyrics earlier in the episode were suggestive. Do you have a favorite bar from this one? Really tough call.
What's the line about like paying for the pinky?
Yeah, that's a great one. Oh, Alice with 3 fingers never had a lot. She gave me all she had to give, 2 more than what was sought.
Yeah.
And then before, so that's the chorus. Yeah. Oh, 2 more than what I bought. Before that, we get the, I once gave her a silver, feeling down and lone. I tried to buy a pinky, but I got the whole arm bone.
I tried to buy a pinky, but got the whole arm bone. That's one. The whole arm bone, as it were.
Born Bereft of Thumb is also just
This is a great song. Again, Dan Romer, call us. I want to talk to you about all of the lyrics that you've put together for this show. I am curious if like what the prompt was for this. Like give us a bawdy tavern song or give us specifically a song about a woman who doesn't have all her fingers right before Tanselle is about to get her fingers broken. You know what I mean? Like, is it like that direct of a connection that we're trying to make here? But like, you know, Tanselle, you know, no matter what, this is a horrible thing for Tanselle. Aerion broke all the puppets. Her uncle was on the ground. You know, is he going to be okay? We don't know. She broke her fingers. Like, healthcare is not great in Westeros. All the, like, things are really bad. Yeah. It's even worse in the book, I would say, because of that quote you read about her needing the fingers to make the dragon slither and snap or whatever else she needs to use her fingers for per your pervy mind. But like, him breaking her fingers is breaking her life the way that he shattered Humfrey's leg.
A little bit of a Jamie, I was that hand.
Yeah, exactly. Connection. Exactly.
Yeah. Jamie always
and that, mind. But you know, Alice herself makes do with what she has.
Boy, does she. Boy, does she. Egg, you know, he's in like, I'm in the dorm room. It's freshman year. I hit the bong once. I opened the philosophy textbook once. And I've got a lot of thoughts about how the lyrics of this song connect to honor and hope. That's the headspace he's in. I honestly loved it.
I loved it too. I was thinking about Joffrey putting the bolts into poor Roz because like the way in which a Joffrey thinks about a woman who is a sex worker. I mean, Roz, there were other reasons why she found herself there, but like the way in which we've heard people in general and perhaps royals specifically talk about women who make money with their bodies, and the way that Egg is talking about the honor of Alice here. And this just speaks to, again, like what's so important about Egg's journey inside of this story is like seeing the world from a different point of view.
Yes.
And saying, you know, here's this girl who was so good, so prodigiously talented at what she did that they wrote songs about her.
Yeah.
And he's like, here's this thing she does, sticking the whole arm bone up someone's ass.
Is this not the act of a dog in spirit?
I mean, yes, rip the bong once, for sure. But, like, he's finding dignity in positions in the world that all other royals that we've met have just looked down upon.
Absolutely. There is an embrace of all sorts of circumstances and lives and choices. I agree completely. I think that actually is genuinely really lovely. There's like a version of this scene that goes so poorly, but this they really managed to like do a thing that we could mock, but make it work.
I know.
It's so of a piece with the tales growing, the telling a tall tale that became legend, like through line of the show as well. This idea of like, what's in a name? What's in the identity that you forge? How do people remember you? Why? Like, what do they remember you for? Does it matter if there's a lesson inside of it that we can heed? It's like all connected. There's high comedy, but it's all connected to these kind of like core questions and the thesis of the show.
I love that. I have one I think this is my last T.H. White quote to read. But Merlin's talking about the best thing for being sad, Merlin says in the book, is to learn something. And it's a long quote, but he says, there's only one thing for it then, to learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you. Look what a lot of things there are to learn. And this is like Egg is just out here in the world and leading Dunk by the hand to say like, Dunk's like, I don't know. I think Alice is just a nice name to write a song about, which is like probably partially true.
And then he also says one might wish for more, which is of course, perfect Dunk.
But Egg just being like, okay, and like let's continue this thought process. Like, like we've seen Dunk before just sort of like say a thing and that's the end of the thought. And Egg's like, and and so here's Egg being like, and what else can we think about this particular story, this lesson that we're learning here?
Giving more than what is asked applies to both of them. But really, this is such a great episode for that idea for Egg. Because again, he like doesn't need to be making these choices or doing these things. And of course, that's always applicable.
He has written a dissertation on a body rave tent song.
The whole arm bone,
as it were. Come on, House of R, Egg.
Please, Egg, you have a standing invitation.
Prince Aegon Targaryen.
Alice has a way in for Egg to be like, could I live a different life than the one that they told me I had to? Just, the show is great. Speaking of thoughts about the future.
Prophecies.
We're wandering through the market.
This is a big show invention moment. This is plunking the cat's paw dagger on the table moment.
Some of it is speaking of plunking things on the table, some of it's right from the page, like the sausages, a lot of sausage talk in the page, and they have real like Arlen Cox-sized sausages in their hands here.
My mom used to call them walking wursts, like when you walk around to like a German Christmas market and you get a sausage and you're just walking around with it.
Wonderful. Sausages have come up quite a bit on the industry pods.
It's true.
Did you ever think you'd be podcasting this much about sausages?
Sausages on the pit as well, I gotta say. It's a great time for sausage on television.
Oh, man. This is where, before the fortune teller wanders into the path, this is where Dunk is briefly talking about his father and this idea, like, okay, I was, bringing stuff for the Bowl of Brown. And, your father, this idea that he could have seen his own father hanged and not known it. Yeah. Right? Didn't even know who he was. Ask Egg, do you know who your father was? No, not really.
As unknowable as Mallory Rubin.
As unknowable as Joanna Robinson. They walk past Plummer, looking at Dunk.
And he's like,
hey, you ready to give me your answer? And Dunk is not. He walks by, but as you noted later, he will say to Raymun, Andrew and I are evenly matched. And then they pass this fortune teller who stops them and offers to share their fortunes. Here's what she says to Dunk. You shall know great success to be richer than a Lannister. And Dunk's like, thanks. Now do the boy. Do the boy. And she says to Egg, you shall be king and die in a hot fire, and worms shall feed upon your ashes, and all who know you shall rejoice in your dying. And Egg is like, bro, what? What? Why did she say that? And Dunk is cracking up.
Laughing because he's like, this is my little avatar, the last Airbender Squire. And Egg is like, well, I'm a fucking Targaryen, so it's not.
That's alarming to hear.
not possible that this could happen.
Oh man. There is a lot to say about this. We talked about this with CR on Talk the Thrones. To me, the most interesting part about this, and in general in George's work, because he is obsessed with prophecy, is just like tracking how a character responds to hearing something like this. Like, what does it do to you to hear something
for
like
Egg specifically, right? Because if Dunk hears, you shall know great success and be richer than a Lannister. Okay. Something to think about. You shall be king and die in a hot fire, and worms shall feed upon your ashes, and all you know who know you shall rejoice in your dying. How is that not hanging over?
You would think about it.
Every choice you make going forward.
Which again,
given that it's a show invention and not in the book, this is something that, this is something that the Cat's Paw Dagger does for House of the Dragon, where it's like every single decision made by these Targaryens, some of these Targaryens who know the prophecy, is informed by this thing.
Yes.
So what Egg does going forward, how much is he thinking about trying to avoid and then self-fulfill in one way or another this prophecy from this woman?
We've talked for years about maybe doing a prophecy tropes course one of these days, and then we are like, we can't because it would have to be like a year of work. It could never be one episode.
Like 2 hours on the Ghost of High Heart.
That's the thing. It's like just inside of Thrones stories, we could do a multi-part, multi-week, multi-month series. So this is not going to be exhaustive, but like think of, and we've all talked about this many times over many pods over the years, the way that Cersei is shaped by what Maggie the Frog says to her, right? We talked in Hot D about like, how will Demon respond to hearing Alice say, you will die in this place? You just mentioned the Cat's Paw Blade. That's a really fun one because when we talk about prophecies in the Thrones world, obviously like there's a fortune teller or a woods witch or someone issues a prophecy. There is the adjacent related like dragon dreams or green dreams. There are all sorts of versions of like something that comes into your life. We're going to talk more about dragon dreams in future weeks, but Aegon's dream, the Song of Ice and Fire in Hot D, is like a really fun one because for the Conqueror, it's a dream, and for everyone else, then it's a prophecy. Like that's a really fun one. Then obviously that's now just something on our minds all the time when we think about the Targs and the choices that they've made, and that's something we've been enjoying tracking across Hot D. But like Viserys saying to Rhaenyra, when he is sharing this and explaining this in season 1, the last of the Valyrian pyromancers hid his song in the steel. From my blood comes the prince that was promised, and his will be the Song of Ice and Fire. A responsibility I have handed to you. The burden of this knowledge, it is larger than the throne, the king. It is larger than you and your desires. You hear something like this, it is the most important thing. Like, how could it not be, right? How could it not take a grip and a hold on your consciousness? The Prince That Was Promised has been just incorporated into that show canon, but obviously in Thrones, the Prince That Was Promised in the Song of Ice and Fire text, that's something we talk about a lot. Azor Ahai, the Stallion Who Mounts the World. We had our Quaithe prophecies. We had the House of the Undying. There are myriad examples that we could run through of like, what does someone see or hear? Yeah. And then what do they think about it?
And also what I will say, and I have had like pretty much no notes about the added dialogue that they put in this show. There is no doubt to me that George had to sign off on this, right? Because this is such like a seismic thing to put in the plot here that there's like no way Ira just like went off script and dropped a prophecy in here, a big old prophecy. So George signs off on this, right? These prophecies are not on the same caliber as we usually get. They're usually like fun little like picture puzzles for us. Like the Ghost of the High Heart of High Heart says, I dreamt I saw a shadow with a burning heart butchering a golden stag, right? Melisandre's shadow baby. I dreamt of a man without a face waiting on a bridge that swayed and swung. On his shoulder perched a drone crow with seaweed hanging from his wings. That's I am the Storm Brother, right? I dreamt of a roaring river and a woman that was a fish, a Tully. Dead she drifted with red tears on her cheeks, but when her eyes had opened, oh, I woke from terror. It's Lady Stoneheart, right?
Yes.
You know, like she does the red wedding. I dreamt of a maid at a feast with purple serpents in her hair, venom dripping from her fangs. It's Sansa at the purple wedding. You know, so like there's just these really fun little puzzles that like in many cases the reader doesn't know what the hell they're talking about until it happens. This happens with like what Daenerys sees in the House of the Undying. They're like fun puzzles for us to like try to figure out. And so like
ornaments, ornaments, salt and smoke. Is he a ham? Perhaps my favorite example of that. Yeah. And then like every character who comes across something like that looking to apply it, either to themselves or to somebody else in their lives. This is just a
little bit more straightforward. Though I will say, worms shall feed upon your ashes worms is the one sort of like food for, Prince Hal, food for worms, like Shakespeare, sure. But like, worms in the dragon sense, WYRMS, like, what's going on with that. So, I like my prophecies a bit more,
sure, of course,
riddly, a bit more like cryptic crosswordy, than we got here. So
yeah, definitely. I think Egg probably would have preferred that as well,
for sure. Ghost of High Heart, I just want to say,
legend.
A character who shows up in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yep.
But also like was around in this time. Mm-hmm. So there have been some people saying like, is this the Ghost of High Heart? Doesn't really match the description.
Certainly does not match the description.
She's supposed to be, quite a bit smaller. She came to court with Jenny Oldstones, a stunted thing, grotesque to look upon. This is just a lady. So, this is just actually a very pleasant looking lady. So I don't know that this is the Ghost of High Heart, but the Ghost of High Heart is a character who interacts with Egg's story. So
great character.
Something to think about.
Do you think in the writer's room of every Thrones spinoff and every Thrones story, there's just like, you guys were talking about this on Industry, what does Tender have in the office? You think they have in the writer's room the Viserys quote to Alicent from season 1? What is the power of a dragon against the power of prophecy? You think that's just hanging up above everybody in neon?
In neon.
What color?
Bright pink.
I'm really enjoying, by the way, that they're dressing Henry Muck in like Targ colors.
I love this stealthy Industry pod we're having right now.
I'm caught up finally. It's
very good.
What a season of television! Holy shit. Episode 4 took a couple years off my life. That was harrowing, but really great. Raymun.
Jonathan Byers, baby.
Man. Raymun, he's here to serve some cider and spill some Targ tea. Spots them, invites Dunk over. Dunk's like, oh, I really wanted to go get my shield from Tanselle. This is a bad time for this invite, my guy.
It's so funny because he's like, I want to get my shield. I want to get my shield. Part of it is also like, I'm still embarrassed by the goose egg thing. That was sort of my interpretation. He's like, oh, thanks. The ciders sound good, but I kind of want to go see Tanselle.
If I do, how will I?
But it'll be so embarrassing because I did that goose egg thing in front of her and she hasn't forgotten. It was hours ago.
Great stuff. Egg's like, don't worry, I like the puppet show, so I'll go watch the puppet show and then I'll get your shield.
I also thought it was, so like, both in the book and the show, it's clear that Egg is worried that Raymun Fossaway will recognize him, which informed us a little bit about House Fossaway. Mm-hmm. Like, have they been to court? Have they been to Summerhall? Egg is wary of all nobles, but I just thought it was interesting that Raymun Fossaway is someone that he was nervous about.
I do think we've talked about this before, but I do think this is an area where something is a little lost page to screen.
Oh, purple eyes?
Yeah. Well, just the fact that it is Egg is unmistakably a Targaryen, even with the shaved head, and Dunk is like a real doofus for missing it. Egg does not think anyone else who looked at his purple eyes would miss it.
And he's so nice.
He's like, anyone would be able to, do you have purple eyes? Oh, are you a Targaryen? Yeah. And Dunk is just like, my dude, how'd you like the bacon this morning?
His eyes are kind of like a bluish, like a dark bluish kind of color.
Oh, Dunk. Raymun takes him to his tent. He's a home brewer.
I want to try the Fossaway cider.
Me too. I love a cider. I think
ciders can get kind
like
of
a dry
sickly.
Cider. You
like very dry,
yeah.
very very dry.
I like a sweet cider.
Very cold.
Surprise. Yeah,
because if it gets warm, it's over. Honestly, I think like a frosty dry cider.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
I do like a sweet cider.
Okay,
but I'm not surprised that you don't,
palates.
based on your wine takes from earlier and your port slander.
Go first, Trina.
Didn't we have port together at Comic-Con?
No, I didn't port with you at Comic-Con.
You didn't order port at the team dinner?
No.
I got a port.
You got a port.
You had a martini.
I got a coffee I got several martinis, and I think I got a coffee. I usually have coffee with dessert, not port.
Oh, man. Great stuff. Raymun brings up Aerion and his rage over having to give his horse to Humfrey. And then this is where they talk about Egg's belief that Aerion acted intentionally. And Raymun's like, yeah, no shit, dude. Here's what Raymun says. They're incestuous aliens, Duncan, blood magickers and tyrants who've burned our lands, enslaved our people, dragged us into their wars without a mote of respect for our history or our customs. Every pale-haired brat they've saddled on us has been madder than the last. Would you say when a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin, Joe? Would you say that? He then finishes.
Not on someone's tits.
Not on someone's tits, but by talking about finishing on the tits and then saying Stefan taught him that, which I thought was fucking hysterical.
I think it's like
dangerous words, Joe.
Very dangerous words. I think I was thinking about like House Fossaway itself and like what like however much
you often are.
However much he learned from Stefan, like what is the Fossaway beef specifically with House Targaryen? I mean, everyone is throwing rocks at Aerion, you know, but like, so House Fossaway, you know, Age of Heroes house, like,
yes,
been around for a long time.
Yes,
was very, very rich, so rich that like an advantageous marriage with House Fossaway enriched the Tyrells, who are like mega rich, right? You know, so like a long storied house of the Reach, Field of Fire, when Aegon's conquest happened, just torched the shit out of the Reach, right? And so if the Fossaway's resentment goes back to Aegon's conquest, it's been sitting around a while. Right. Also, we may or may not, I don't know if they're going to go there, meet a Fossaway in House of the Dragon, one of the House of the Dragon, season 3 or season 4. They were definitely involved in the Dance of Dragons, and definitely like some shit went down there. So like, you know, take your pick of your, you know, and then to your point, Blackfire Rebellion, more recently, we don't have anything of record about House Fossaway's involvement in that, but like House Fossaway, somewhere between the dance and now, lost their lord status. Yeah. So they are fallen from grace. So they were one of the richest houses in the realm, long-standing, and now they are a poorer house with a chip on their shoulder. And like, I'm with them. Like, fuck the Targaryens, honestly. Sure. Like,
yeah, of course.
You don't get to conquer a land just because you have WMDs. Like, that's how I feel. But also they have perhaps a personal reason as to why Raymun might, 3 Fossaway Ciders deep, be spitting these hard facts, you know?
3 Fossaway Cider, Steve. I hope that one sticks around. That's a great one. Yeah.
Would you rather be 3 Fossaway Ciders deep or the whole arm bone deep?
To me, it sounds like they're probably linked if the evening's gone right.
One follows the other.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly. What Raymun says here is, I think, spicier than maybe everyone is prepared for, given the pod coding that we talked about earlier in the season, and certainly spicier than
what he says in
the book. Don't look so anxious, Sir Duncan. There's none here but us. There's no secret that Aerion is a bad piece of work. Thank the gods that he is well down in the order of succession.
Do you think it's really weird that Raymun didn't say he's a bad apple?
I mean, yeah, I do, actually, given the sheer heft of the apple puns that he and Stefan rip off all the time.
Right.
The incest thing that he mentions here is interesting because, like, obviously that is...
Guys, they're barely incestuous right now.
Yeah, this is a kind of weird time
they're just, like, hardly incestuous.
Very incest-light period in Targ history, certainly relatively speaking, in terms of the past and the future. Honestly. From Fire and Blood, the fictional history text on which House of the Dragon is based, the idea of Targaryen exceptionalism. All this, the exceptionalists affirmed, but with this caveat, the Targaryens were different. Their roots were not in Andalos, but in Valyria of old, where different laws and traditions held sway. A man had only to look at them to know that they were not like other men. Dunk, you paying attention? Their eyes, their hair, their very bearing all proclaimed their differences, and they flew dragons. They alone, of all the men in the world, had been given the power to tame those fearsome beasts once the doom had come to Valyria. So, incest, the Targaryens got away with incest, basically carved out an incest loophole in Westeros because they rode dragons. So this is all connected. The fact that they don't have dragons, it opens up, and there were plenty of people before when they did have dragons who were like, you shouldn't be able to fuck your sister. This is not cool.
This is my hot take. It's not a good idea.
It's not. Just don't fuck your sister.
Right, but their whole excuse was we
Keep
can't
the bloodline pure.
thin out
Yes.
the bloodline because maybe it'll dilute our ability to connect with these dragons.
Right. And so now they have no dragons, so they open the door to saying, like, stop fucking your relatives. Like, stop doing all these things that you've gotten away with that are like and certainly on the Faith of the Seven front, like an affront to the faith and to followers of the faith. But Darren II, the current king, married a Martell. Baelor is married to a Dondarrion. Aerys, a Penrose maker, a Dane. So this is a period of focusing on shoring up alliances, specifically in a certain region because Dorne is in the fold now. So Dorne, angry houses in the Dornish Marches, the nearby Stormlands. This is about political alliances and strengthening bonds so that they can maintain a hold on power through a more traditional means because they don't have dragons. So you have all that, but then you have the dance, obviously a civil war inside the family, heavily fueled by incestual practices. Blackfire Rebellion is very connected to incest. And so this idea that Raymun or anybody only 13 years, a decade and a half later will be like these incestuous aliens does make sense, even though this is an incest-light period, because...
I gotta say, I'm pretty sure the Blackfire Rebellion just comes down to, I want to fuck my sister. No, I want to fuck my sister. Exactly. You can't fuck your sister. I want to fuck my sister.
Darren II's parents were related. Daemon Blackfire's parents were related. Aegon IV is both of their fathers, Aegon the Unworthy. Nerys and Dana, their respective mothers. And Daemon was in love with his half-sister, Daenerys. That's like basically the big rumor for like what the war was actually about. Like, yeah, sure, he gave him the sword, but also incest.
Also, I don't think you like half, who cares at that point if you put a half in front of it or not? It's still your sister.
Didn't sway Raymun, that's for sure. So yeah, these are wild things to say, but one more way of very effectively showing us the fragile ground that the Targ stand on right now.
Yep.
Aerion is one of the Targ standing on that fragile ground, and so he's like, I'm going to break some fingers. We cut to Egg, hood up, watching the puppet show. It is once again Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, which makes sense to show us something that's now familiar to us, but is really an interesting choice for what Aerion is witnessing. For the obvious reason, the dragon is about to get stabbed.
Thorax.
The dragon ought never lose, but this is an Age of Heroes tale, as we've mentioned before. The Targaryens are not involved in this at all. It's not actually about the Targaryens, but that tells us something about Aerion.
Aerion's like, dragon, is this fucking play about us?
Yeah. The dragon as a symbol of himself, to him, in his mind.
Seek therapy.
And the Targaryens, he could really benefit from more than a few sessions.
It's not about you at all. I also love that. I loved that Tanselle, is a performer as well as a puppeteer. We see her more as a performer than anything else.
Yeah.
But I love that, she's playing Serwyn, which is not the same as Sir Erwin, but she's dressed as a knight, right?
Yeah, right.
And so when Dunk walks in and sees her being mutilated here, it's like the pristine image of knighthood is being desecrated
on both sides,
by Aerion.
I love that.
Bright fucking flame.
The Bright Prince, it's not his brightest idea, that's for sure. The fact, too, that this legend, this story, it's basically like a dragon being outsmarted, a dragon being outclassed, a dragon being tricked. So that, if you think you're a dragon and you're watching everybody cheer to the idea of a dragon being outsmarted, outplay,
outlast, outwit,
the
outwitted is the real
the old
thing.
survivor. Like Jeff Probst is just there providing commentary. It's like,
and it's just Mike White pretending to be drunk, making it all the way to the final tribal.
The Mike White quotes in the trailers and commercials for season 50 are my hype could not.
Have
be
you
higher.
seen some of the behind the scenes interviews?
I've seen a couple.
Did you see him talking about Riz? And he's like, he's giving real McLovin energy.
I mean,
not.
It's tough, but
and then he called Savannah Mini Parvati, and I was just sort of like, he's got the numbers, because everyone else is like, they're a mystery. We don't know who they are. And Mike White's like, let me read that.
I didn't have to see season 49 to be able to explain this perfectly.
Guess what? I write White Lotus. I know an archetype when I see one.
Casting news, all very exciting for season 4 of Lotus. Can't wait. Can't wait to be back in the White Lotus universe with you, and hopefully also in France covering the show in person. This is my This is my new mission. By the way.
Okay, so we're going to Oxford.
I was going to say, on the Oxford-Oxnard front, then prepping for Buffy, I was like, oh yeah, that's a joke in Buffy with the
Do you think Sean's a real Buffy head? No.
Maybe.
No.
I mean, it's entirely possible.
Did you see one of our listeners let us know that the Eagle and the Child has been closed for a bit, and then also who owns it now?
It's awful. Terrible.
Did you Google who owns it now?
I did. I saw the Instagram comments and then I Googled it. I was like, oh no.
Very bad.
Oh no. That was upsetting.
So do you think we can outbid Larry Ellison? I mean, Larry Ellison already owns it, but like, can we give Larry Ellison enough money that we own the Eagle and the Child? And we open sort of like House of Reeds inside of the Eagle and the Child?
I mean, that is very appealing. I don't think that he is one of the people on the list of like folks we could outbid.
Yeah. Not for all the euros in Sweden.
We need Plummer to approach us with a little offer on the side.
Oh my God.
We cut away from Aerion witnessing what he witnesses in the crowd. He's got his hand on his sword. How the crowd has like parted. His palace hush falls over the room just because of his presence. We cut back to Raymun and Dunk. They're laughing. So there's this kind of like incongruous tone. They're still talking about Aerion. Like, yeah, he wouldn't have done this if his dad hadn't been there. Oh, I noticed that Makar's chair was empty. Where was he? Oh, he's off looking for his missing kids. In show and book alike, we get this great and the youngest.
And then
inverse egg right before we get the actual reveal.
Hang out in, you've got 3 tent options. Get to watch a puppet show, no violence, but like anything that Tanselle and company are putting on.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Lionel Baratheon's rave tent.
Of course.
A one-on-one sit down in the Fossaway tent. As many Fossaway ciders as you can enjoy.
I'm putting, with respect to Raymun Fossaway, a character I really like, that's last for me.
Really?
Even though I love a quiet evening. Yeah, show Raymun is giving me anxiety, actually. A little bit. Like,
I like him a lot.
I think he's wonderful. He's very sweet. But if I were in that universe and I found myself in that tent, I'd be like, shut your mouth. Like, you're making me nervous. Who might hear this? Okay. What might happen? Okay. Scary stuff from Raymun in that scene. Also, the accent's really thick. So if I had 3 ciders, I don't know how active of a participant I would be in that conversation.
Yeah.
Now, I don't get out much. This is really kind of more aspirational thinking because sitting one-on-one with Raymun is more like my everyday life. I don't have a lot of like I'm in Lionel's rave tent experiences in my life. I don't get out much. So that is exciting to think about because it would be a new experience. I would say like I'm at Ashford Meadow. I'm on vacation. I'm out in the world. I'm out in the field. Let me live a little. So I would want to talk myself into hanging out with Lionel. Those pastries look great. The turkey leg looked great. And I liked the quiet story time after with him. Puppet show also wonderful because I like learning about history, you know? So that's fun. That's like a podcast in that universe, you know? That would be great. Just going to a podcast live show. I love that. So I'm going Lionel. How could you pass on Hang? Lionel is just clearly the best hang in the show. I
kind of disagree. Lionel night 1, for sure.
Yeah.
Night 3 or whatever this is, the vibes are slightly off in the Baratheon tent, I have to say.
I would have been honored to witness the Alice.
I don't think it smells good in there. I think things are tough.
You know, tug of war seemed great.
Sir Manfred's getting way too much airtime in that tent. Like, you know, a friend of Sir Manfred's not a friend of mine. Okay, so for me, it's puppet number 1 because I love the theater. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a live podcast. I would say it's the theater. So I'd love to go to the theater.
Then Raymun.
Raymun,
he's just like sitting there burping in Dunk's face.
No, it sounds like really fun.
Okay. I do love a cider, though.
And then the Baratheon rave tent on
This
day
is
3.
shocking stuff from you. What a twist. You love the Laughing Storm.
Yeah, night 1.
What about the last night? You go back at the end? Before you leave Ashford?
That guy is not awake on the last night of the party.
Oh, great stuff. In the book, we get some you know, and the show, we get some like family tree details that are about to be relevant. So most like Darren, he's probably just drunk again. 7-0 why? Darren's a sot. Arion's just vain and cruel. The third so useless they were going to ship him off to the Citadel to make him a maester.
And the youngest.
We get a very similar version in the book. This is the poor make our poor, said Dunk startled the King's son quote that we've read before. The king's fourth son, said Raymun, not quite as bold as Prince Baelor, nor as clever as Prince Ares, nor as gentle as Prince Rhaegal, and now he must suffer seeing his own sons overshadowed by his brothers. Darren is a sot. Aerion is vain and cruel. The third son was so unpromising they gave him to the Citadel to make a maester of him, and the youngest. So we're getting some, like, who are all these characters before we learn that Egg is a part of their family tree. In the book, when Egg bursts in, and says Arion's hurting her, the puppet girl, and Dunk springs to action, Raymun issues a warning in the book. And I've always really liked this. Dunk made to follow, but Raymun caught his arm. Sir Duncan, Aerion, he said, a prince of the blood, be careful. It was good counsel, he knew. The old man would have said the same, but he could not listen. Like, connects to what we've been talking about all pod, just that Dunk is going to do something different, his own thing. Yeah. But also just the warning, like that and I just want to shout out, would know, don't do this thing.
I want to shout out my guy Raymun, who goes to get his shitty cousin, but also the men-at-arms. Like he goes
shows up.
Yeah, he shows up at the end, but he's not alone. Like he wasn't just like, let me meander to the tent behind him. He was busy getting help.
Yes.
You know. But
not playing get help. Not the Thor Loki get help.
Right.
Actually.
And not the Sam Raimi film Send Help.
I haven't seen it.
I did.
Did you like it? Sean liked it.
I like Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams a lot. I don't know that I loved the movie, but Dylan O'Brien, absolute king.
You're crushing the tape here in LA at the theater every night because you can't be in Raymun's tent.
I'm a film lover. Speaking of cinema, you know, on the behind the scenes, they showed a couple like cool camera tricks that they did to like bring us into the tent in the first place.
Yeah.
To zoom up onto Tanselle getting her finger snapped by Aerion. But also the reverse dolly zoom that they do on Dunk, which is just like a classic cool cinema trick to just sort of like show sort of reality bending for someone or emotions overwhelming someone. And this is like Duncan just seeing red.
Yeah.
The quote
the soundscape kind of helps reinforce that as well.
The quote that Sarah, the director, used was the beast inside him is awoken, right? So like, you know, you don't want to wake the dragon. You don't want to wake whatever's inside of Duncan because it's taller.
Would you say there's a beast in every man and it stirs when you put a sword in its hand?
One might.
His sword and dagger were forgotten, the passage goes, along with everything the old man had ever taught him. This is feral. Mm-hmm. This is instinct. This is something core.
And this is why it was, I mean, like, let's hope that Dunk would protect anyone, but like, this is why it was very important to show how like heart-eyed he was, just like gone on Tanselle.
Yes.
We only had 2 episodes to lay that track here. And here we are.
He wanted to lay that track.
This is what our listener Sarah said, speaking of laying track. Sarah wrote, when Dunk punched and then threw that little son of a bitch around like a rag, I was very, very much into it. I felt elated and borderline turned on. Do I need to seek professional help?
Geez, who is Sarah? Us talking about Giles on the Buffy pods?
I was going to say, I almost didn't include this and I was like, we keep talking about this way about Giles. So fair enough.
This is it's an overpowering show from Dunk, right? He might have kicked him to death right then and there, but the princeling's men swarmed over him. He is not having trouble getting the best of Aerion Brightflame, that's clear. Aerion lifts himself up, spits out some blood, and then Carlos, let's hear what he says.
Why did you throw your life away for this whore? She's scarcely worth it. It's a traitor. The Dragon will never lose.
This was like Chris's favorite TV moment in a decade, basically. The way that Finn Bennett says, why did you throw your life away for this whore? Was really impactful.
And Finn talked about this, about how he and the director Sarah decided that this was like the scariest response that Aerion could have, like way scarier than a tantrum, is this sort of like calm confusion. And I kind of like the way that it's his confusion, his puzzlement around Dunk mirrors Dunk's puzzlement around Aerion and like all this other like sort of example. He's like, it's not supposed to be this way. The world's not supposed to be this way.
Right.
And this is what Aerion feels. He's like, it's not supposed to be like this. What are you doing? She's a horse. She's not. She's a puppeteer. But if she were, I mean, whatever.
Right.
So
everybody
like
is challenging a notion of convention.
Right. But just sort of like, what are you?
Right.
You know? And then my instinct is to break you. Like I break everything else. I'm going to like, let's stage stomp your teeth
Yeah,
out,
you loosen one of my teeth. Well, we'll start by taking out all of
It's not an eye for an
yours.
eye. It's
That's always gone fine in
it's
Thrones.
a loose tooth for all of your teeth.
I love this passage in the text because Aerion doesn't recognize, like he thinks Dunk looks familiar, but it takes him a moment to place him. And Dunk's like, you mistook me for a stable boy. So they have this brief exchange, but it builds toward the same, in essence, the same. She's scarcely worth it to trade. The Dragonaut never lose. Why did you throw your life away for this whore? But the passage ends with this. This is always like, I just think this is such a bar from George. He's mad, thought Dunk, but he is still a prince's son, and he means to kill me. He might have prayed then if he had known a prayer all the way through.
I don't know the words.
Doesn't know the words. But there was no time. There was hardly even time to be afraid. I think there is something so core and true there about how quickly everything can change.
Mm-hmm.
How quickly everything can change. So let's talk about both sides of this. The Aerion side of it, which we've already hit mostly. Worried about the Targ's fading position. Fueled by the crowd response.
The red confetti coming out of the dragon, and he's like, how dare you?
Absolutely not. He won't abide it. The Dunk side of it, though. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Reckless, mad. But it's honorable. It's right. This is our hero for a reason.
All men are fools, and all men are knights.
Defending the weak and protecting the innocents. Like, yeah, he's got a crush, but this is at its core what Dunk believes a knight. What makes a knight a knight? This. It is being the only, everyone else is standing around watching this happen in that tent, and Dunk walks in. Does the sound cloud his ears? Is he seeing red? Does the beast rise within? Sure. But also the other thing that rises within is a sense of moral clarity. Like, I have lived my life to understand that a hedge knight is the truest kind of knight, Dunk, as Arlen taught him.
Also, like, you know, there's been some debate about Aegon's choice to go get Dunk here, because it's sort of like, couldn't he have just said, like, stop brother himself in that moment? Did he need to get Dunk involved or whatever?
Right.
But I just love the idea, you know, in the book he explains, like, he couldn't have run to the castle. It was too far. You know what I mean? So he'd get to Dunk. But, like, he knew that Dunk would do the right thing. He's hurting her, the puppet girl, and that's it. And
he doesn't doubt that Dunk
is going to do this.
Yeah.
Where we've seen, you know, whereas Raymond Fossaway's like, hold on, dude.
Yeah.
Let's calm down. Stefan Fossaway certainly not going to get involved. Manfred Dondarrion's not going to get involved. Would Lionel Baratheon get involved? Maybe, if the whim suits him. You know what I mean? Would any of these other knights get involved in this? And it's just sort of like, who's the truest fucking knight here at the tourney?
It's so fun to think back
Dunk
to
the hunk, as our listener called him.
Dunk the hunk. Hard salt beef. It's fun to think back to the closing note of Hard Salt Beef of the second episode, and Dunk's declaration on the morrow we will show them what his hand has wrought. Now he's talking about jousting, but this is really showing them what
Arlen's has made.
Hand has wrought, because that idea from Arlen, other knights serve the lords who keep them or from whom they hold their lands, but we serve where we will for men whose causes we believe in. Every knight swears to protect the weak and innocent, but we keep the vow best. I think this idea that the hedge knight, there are all of these things that feel like an indictment or a limit or a weakness. Wear it like armor. You can do the thing that you know is true and good and just. Not everybody else can do that, and they certainly don't choose to do that. So this is just such a crucial key moment, not only in Dunk's story, obviously, and in the flow of the season, but to show us who Dunk is and for Dunk to prove to himself who he is. And it not only did it not require thought, there was no time for thought. There wasn't even time to be afraid.
Right.
This is just who he is at his core.
Yeah.
Who is Egg at his core? It's time to find out. Arion's men have Dunk pinned to the stage, and Egg enters, and he's like, stop. Dunk is terrified for him. You're going to get hurt.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't sit on my horse. You'll get hurt.
God.
Don't do that. You'll get hurt. Fucking wait in Yorkville. They're just following orders.
You know me. Great stuff. Egg, little princeling. And let's hear, Carlos, the exchange that transpires between Aegon Targaryen and his brother, Aerion.
You impudent little wretch. What's happened to your hair?
I cut it off, brother. I didn't want to look like you.
Dun, dun, dun! Cut to this face. Cut to that face. Cut to that face.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And then it kind of
Yeah,
picks up. That's great. It's so good. We've kind of already talked about anything else you want to say before we get into the family tree a little bit more about just like the mid-novella and mid-season placement of this reveal. I think we've probably covered that.
The king is
Darren II.
His first son is
Baelor. Breakspear.
Baelor's sons are
Valar and Materis.
Baelor's brothers are
Aerys. Rhaegal, who also has a son, Aelor. And then back to the brothers, Maekar.
So Maekar is the fourth son of the current king, but he's not even like, he's not even, it's Baelor, then his sons.
Yes, and then the
other brothers, and then Maekar. And then Maekar's sons are
Darren, Aerion, Maester Aemon, and Egg. And of course, we're just listing the bros because it's Westeros.
Because
tough one.
Who cares? Says Tolkien or Martin who the women are in this world.
So at this moment,
I would like
this
to cry
exact moment
in Rhaenyra. Fourth son of the fourth son.
Fourth son of the fourth son, 11th in line. Not near the throne at this moment in the canon. That is where we find Egg. It's just a thrill to be able to talk about the fact that he's Maester Aemon's brother. This is where Egg got the name Egg. Sweet Dunk is like, his head does kind of look like an egg, but actually it's his brother Maester Aemon's nickname for him. It's short for Aegon. My brother Aemon called me Egg. He's off at the Citadel now, learning to be a maester. That's from the book. So great. All of the moments with Maester Aemon in the text and the show where he is talking about Egg, some of which have some spoilers around them, so we'll proceed with caution or avoid, and then some of which are just completely fair game and fine to talk about. The John Aemon season 1, book 1, Love is the Death of Duty scene that we reference as frequently as any other moment in any canon we cover.
Famous moments, scenes from Game of Thrones, as far as we're concerned. Huge fat spoiler.
He does mention Maekar in that. I would say watch the whole scene if you don't care about spoilers for family tree stuff. But he says, "What is duty against the feel of a newborn son in your arms or a brother's smile?" Now, obviously, he's talking to Jon about Robb and everything happening at that point for the Starks. Egg is on his mind here. It's so apparent, and it's just lovely. And then when Gilly and Sam are with Maester Aemon, and sweet little Sam is there, and he's like, "There he is. That laugh, Egg." Egg laughed like that. One of the first things I remember. Then there are some spoilers, and then Maester Aemon says, "He was a jolly fellow." You want to remind us what Aemon says on his deathbed?
Egg, I dreamed I was old. Devastating.
Oh my God. I'm getting sad right now. I'm going to cry. In the text, A Dance with Dragons, he says, Maester Aemon says to Jon, Egg had an innocence to him, a sweetness we all loved.
Another very famous part of the story, which we'll talk about.
We'll come back to that
section.
one. Yeah, that full passage in the spoiler section. Yeah. It's just a wonderful tie to be able to more overtly discuss across the pods between these key figures.
So, Egg reveals himself here. He's not in massive amounts of danger, right? Because he's a prince. So he's not in like actual danger. He's going to be fine. He's a prince. But his adventure is over.
That's the thing in PR.
That's what, so that's why we keep hitting like the runny yolk of the sandwich or the I could be quite happy in a place like this. Like these are all the things that he's just like
put on the line to save Dunk.
Just light it on fire because this adventure for me is over. This life that I thought I could maybe carve for myself is over. And then for Dunk.
Oh my God, his face, Joe.
The betrayal here of just sort of like, I'm not only in the trouble for what I've just done, but now I'm in so much trouble for having any dealings with this Targaryen prince, this Aegon. Like, if I'm not going to hang for this, I'm going to hang for that. And he did that to me. He knowingly put me in danger by putting himself with me. And I don't think Egg thought of it that way at all. Of course not. Yeah. But like, those are the realities that Duncan has to consider here. And so, and just sort of like, you've been lying the whole time about who you were.
Yes.
And I
believed you.
I believed you. I'm so dumb. I'm like,
that's the thing that like, because he's been talking all season about what a fool he is. Like that
to buy a car. That's me, man, You do
fine with your car purchases. That moment with Sweetfoot in episode 2 where he's like, where Dunk says, is there any measure of a fool? I failed.
Right. But like Arlen gave him all this advice about who to trust. And he's like thinking about that when he's looking at the sex workers and like all this sort of stuff like that. And he's just sort of like, he trusted this boy. Yeah. And it's an incestuous alien prince in disguise. And like Egg rushes in to protect him, but like how far is that protection? Like how far is Egg going to put himself on the line for
And what
Dunk?
will matter more to Dunk himself, that Egg revealed himself and blew up his own spot to make sure that Dunk was okay, or that he forged this fiction in the first place? It's complicated. Great end to the episode. Really lands. I think that book lovers loved it. And if you had no idea this was coming, you loved it. And that's just, like you said at the beginning, the best.
I think it was done perfectly.
It really was great.
I loved it.
Book spoilers.
Bye.
If you don't want to hear this,
Carlos is about to scare the bejesus out of you.
Please leave after this alarming sound from Carlos, or perhaps he's already played the alarming sound. Looks like he's typing something right now. Is he firing? Is he like Steve Harrington at the squawk? You know? Chicken sound here. Okay. Have you left? Are you gone? We're going to talk book spoilers. You really don't, seriously, you don't want to hear this. If you don't want to hear it. If you do, great. Welcome.
You've not heard of him. You will.
Aegon the Unlikely.
Prince Aegon, King Aegon, the Unlikely Targaryen.
Okay, so let's take people behind the scenes for a second. After Talk the Thrones, we were like, we really hope that just inside the episode, they're just like, and he'll be king one day. That did not happen.
It's really tough.
It did not happen.
I feel like I
no.
really hinted very heavily at it. And I didn't stop me from I kept calling it the Sword in the Stone, though, so I wouldn't call it the Once and Future King. But like, I kept talking about
deliberate
King
choice,
Arthur because like, it's so important to talk about anyway, a royal in disguise.
Yes.
A king in disguise, although he doesn't know he's going to be king.
I think that I think I could be quite happy in a place like this. I found almost unbearably sad knowing the future that awaits. And on the one hand, he will continue to be in a place like this. Their adventures of the Dunk and Egg, the Test Dunk and Egg continue. But the future for Aegon the Fifth, Aegon the Unlikely, is so bleak.
I feel like, so you've amassed a bunch of great like World of Ice and Fire quotes, and we can read them. But like, knowing that George had to have signed off on this prophecy is devastating, right? Because he shall be king. Okay. Aegon the Unlikely.
Yeah.
Not easily named king.
Great council.
You know, we love a great council. Huge succession issue, but like a lot of Targaryens have to die before he gets there, but they do.
Yeah, they do.
And he does. Okay. So he becomes the king.
Yes.
And has a very contentious rule. But like the point is,
incredibly so, yeah.
Because of his time here, up until this episode, I had like, though there's information in A World of Ice and Fire, which you can read those quotes, we can talk about them in a second, about like the ways in which the people are like, we're not sure about him. I was like, great reformer king, which is like the whole thing about King Arthur, right?
Yep.
The fiction of King Arthur is that he was this great reformer king.
Yeah.
And T.H. White has this idea of like the reason why he's this great reformer king and why Camelot and Summerhall are these like sort of great platonic ideals of royalty is because he spent time among the people and he learned to care for the people.
Yes.
And so Aegon is this reformer and he's like, I went on the road with Dunk for years and years and years and years. And I know what it means.
Yeah, I lived among the small folk.
To have a mean whip stitch. You know what I mean? Like all this sort of stuff like that. I think about Alice with 3 fingers. I think about all this sort of stuff like that. This made him unpopular with the lords.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But this idea of, and die in a hot fire, he will die at Summerhall.
259 AC.
And worms shall
He's going to be thinking about that for decades.
I know. And worms shall feed upon your ashes. So he knew that. He knew he would die in a fire and he pursued this anyway. Worms shall feed upon your ashes. Right? Like, is that he's going to die in food for worms? Is that the dragons that will come eventually from, you know, your line or your death or whatever?
Yeah.
And all who know you shall rejoice in your dying.
That's the dagger.
That is crazy. And like, there's a couple possible explanations here. Like, is it that, I saw a lot of people be basically like, Egg was so badly burned that like even the people who love him were like, at last he's dead because he's relieved from his suffering, right?
Yeah.
Very badly burned. Like, and then he's dead, right? So like what a relief, what a rejoice. Or because you have to think about Aemon, Maester Aemon, who's like his whole life is like Egg.
Yeah.
But like, who did Egg become?
Mm-hmm.
And does he become so possessed?
Yeah, by the pursuit of dragons.
By the pursuit of dragons that he like goes beyond, oh, that guy's too much of a man of the people, to this guy is a mad king, not quite burned them all.
Right.
But
like,
like,
lost
I will go to any lengths to hatch dragons again, to take the Targaryens out of their flop era, to make sure that the reforms that I have in mind are backed up by the ancestral might and power of the Targaryens.
Yeah.
And to like, and disprove that fucking prophecy that all who know me shall rejoice in my dying. They won't if I bring the dragons back. Like how much of this is the self-fulfilling kind of just sort of like, I heard that I was going to be really unpopular and die in a fire. Right. So I need dragons or else that's going to happen to me.
That brings it about.
And that's what brings it about.
Summerhall. Yeah. I thought this is like the all who know you shall rejoice in your dying part felt very like connected to things we understand about the challenges of Egg's reign and like broken alliances and lost friendships, and also even people close to him being like, don't do this thing. But also it did feel like a leveling up of the
all shall rejoice.
Yeah, that felt
all of his kids. I mean, I know his kids were like, fuck you, dad, I do what I want and I marry who I want, but like,
I know
they're excited that he's dead. Well, some of them are dead too, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Prince Duncan is he's a little crispy, little crispy guy there.
This idea of being expelled by a prophecy at a young age, I think is fascinating. You know what I mean?
I mean, Egg is so young here. He's like 9 years old, right? So to hear this thing at any point in your life would leave an impression, certainly. But like, these are the coming of age, most formative years. And at a moment in Egg's life where he is so actively thinking about who am I and who do I want to be? What choices do I want to make? What life do I want to live? Like, what a ripe and raw time to hear this thing. On the incest front, like the idea that, the incest returns with Egg's kids. I mean, he's like the Blackwoods.
Incest and Robert Downey Jr. shall return for Avengers Doomsday.
And Summerhall Doomsday. The lost alliances, the broken promises because of his kids' marital choices. And they're like, well, you married for love, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And he's like, I didn't think I was going to be like in this position when I did
fourth
that.
Son of the fourth son.
Yeah, but you guys are in a different spot. We've already talked about Duncan and Jenny and in a prior book spoiler section, Lionel and the broken betrothal and the eventual
Lionel Baratheon.
showdown between the Laughing Storm and Dunk.
So if we get to that season and we get, but did you see what Ira said
about the ages?
Yeah,
I mean,
he said about taking time off. I don't think HBO will let him do that. And I also like, is HBO
Casey's
gonna
out there
exist?
giving deadline interviews like
every year.
We're making this show. So those things feel in conflict with each other.
I know, but basically Ira Parker was saying he wants to make the TV version of Boyhood, where he's just going to like track the age of the actors as they grow.
I mean, I think that they can get Dexter as Egg to a Blackwood wedding. That can definitely happen. 259 AC Summerhall when we're in 209 AC. They just have to really radically move things up. And then I think you create problems because Rhaegar has to be born there. And then the timeline for established show canon just doesn't make sense. They can only move Summerhall so far when Rhaegar is born there.
I agree with you.
I like the idea of, I love Boyhood.
No, it's a great idea, and it's also like probably something that George is like, yes, let's do that. The same way that George is like,
George is like, I have more time to write my novellas.
And also George is like, we should do every final like episode of Game of Thrones should be a movie in the theater. Like George has a lot of grand ideas.
I mean, it's a fun thing to think about. I don't know if it's possible. I love this World of Ice and Fire quote about Egg's kids. His grace had failed to account for the willfulness of his own blood. How perfect, right? How perfect. He's like, I don't like incest. A couple of his kids are going to marry each other.
I could if I wanted
without
to.
His blessing. Yeah, exactly. His Aegon is more than half a peasant. This is like a recurring refrain in his section of World and Ice and Fire. This thing that certain members of the realm hold against him, right, in the Great Council and beyond. Though beloved by the small folk, King Aegon made many enemies amongst the Lord of the Realms whose powers he wished to curtail. As you noted, this reformer king, like, of course that's unpopular. And so the thing that like Dunk, he believes is or your guy Young Griff from earlier in the pod. This is like virtuous. I have I have lived among the people I am ruling. And so I will create a realm that is a better place for them. And then all of the rich bros in their castles are like, actually, we don't like you now. Like all of that tracks perfectly with the characters and also just the flow of history. But this pursuit of dragons and that like to the all part in this prophecy, like World of Ice and Fire. Aegon V was oft heard to say that had he only dragons, as the first Aegon had, he could have remade the realm anew with peace and prosperity and justice for all. Now, we love Egg, but I could just remake it. I could remake it anew if I just had more power and a weapon of mass destruction is very frequently something that we associate with a villain. And we don't think of Aegon as a villain, but this is they're laying track here for something really dark that is pretty compelling to think about getting to see, but very tragic.
It's so interesting because like watching, to bring industry back, I've been thinking a lot about the way in which they bungled Daenerys' arc.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking of someone like Yasmin on industry, which is just sort of like Yasmin didn't start. If you're not watching industry, it doesn't really matter. But the point is they're really nailing this arc of this character with believable trauma that lead her to make increasingly hard to root for decisions. You know what I mean? And when we meet her in season 1, she's making bad decisions, but it's easier to like root for her. You know, it's just like an incremental, intentional movement of a character along an arc where Daenerys felt like, hear the bells. The show, I'm just going to torch all of my character development or whatever the case may be. And so like if we have this to track for with Aegon, there's a potential here for something. I mean, it's the tragedy at Summerhall.
Yes.
And the tragedy at Summerhall is all these people die, but also like the tragedy is Egg
losing his way.
We love being the architect of this tragic event.
I'm excited.
I
mean, we love a tragic fall, and especially one that is rooted in an initial good intention. The idea of a life of honor and virtue and seeking to actually give a shit about somebody else's circumstance and perspective leading to this outcome is so delicious. In just the next couple seasons, based on Sworn Sword and Mystery Knight novella canon, I mean, we're not going to have to wait long. We get like quotes in Mystery Knight of Egg, you know, because of course the egg at White Walls, the literal dragon egg at White Walls and John the Fiddler, Daemon II. We get like passages where Egg is talking about Darren's dreams. Yeah. So we're going to be ratcheting this up in just the next couple seasons and starting to lay the track for this, what becomes an obsession. Aegon V, this is also from World of Ice and Fire, had come to dream of dragons flying once more above the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. There are other passages that I don't have here, but where it spells out that he's like sending people to Ashai. You know, he is hunting for these things. In this, he was not unlike his predecessors who brought septons to pray over the last eggs, mages to work spells over them, and maesters to pore over them. Though friends and counselors sought to dissuade him. So that was what really caught my eye of like how many of the people who loved him most and were closest to him were like, don't do this thing. Don't do this thing.
Can you imagine a scene where Duncan's like, don't do this thing?
Yeah, and I feel like Mystery Knight with the egg as a prize is going to be a really rich text to start introducing some of these ideas early. King Aegon grew ever more convinced that only with dragons would he ever wield sufficient power to make the changes he wished to make in the realm
and force
the proud and stubborn lords of the 7 kingdoms to accept his decrees. So where does it tip? Where does it tip from nobility of intention into you will heed me? Like, oh my God, I'm excited for this, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to watch. I really can't wait for this though.
Can I have this camera? Ted Saranda. Ted Saranda. I know you recently, I think, like testified in front of a committee, judiciary committee, whatever, that you would honor a 45-day theatrical window should you take over Warner Brothers and have charge of their films. And I'm sure Sean and Amanda, for whom the studio is home, rejoiced. I would like you to also swear that you will give us 13 seasons of Dunk and Egg, of A Night of the 7 Kingdoms, and then we get to go to Summerhall because I would be so devastated if we get all of this and then we don't get to go to Summerhall. Which like George has been so, thank you so much. George has been like so he's guarded a lot of the Summer Hall information.
Sure. I mean,
because he really wanted to be the one to write it. And like, that's not going to happen, George.
It's sad that this is happening again, but we do need this. We need this canon. I mean, Rhaegar's going to be born there.
We deserve this. Okay. On the Dunk side, can I tell
what did
you
she make of this?
One of my favorite theories that comes from
you shall know great success and be richer than a Lannister.
Friend of the pod.
Hit me.
History of Westeros is Ashea. Lady Rohan Weber.
Yeah.
Who we will meet next season.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Who Dunk
That's Spider.
canonically fucks.
He grabs her braid and they kiss.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah. They're
I think
very sexually drawn to each other.
I think he wants to kiss Tanselle. I think he
Oh, yeah. He's dreaming of her tits.
has sex with Lady Rohan.
A lot of
Weber.
lust between those two.
Who does she marry? Gerald Lannister. What happens in 230
A lot of
AC?
marriages for her.
230 AC? She disappears.
Yeah.
Mysteriously.
Mm-hmm.
Does she run off with Dunk? In the words of Ashea, does he cuck a Lannister? And in that way, he is richer than a Lannister.
I love it. It would be great. It'd
That's
be
a
wonderful.
great theory. But also, like, Tarth, like, our land's bequeathed to him. Is he richer than a Lannister?
Right.
Literally. Is he richer than a Lannister in friends, in honor, in glory, in whatever?
Yeah.
Prophecies can be tricksy.
Yes.
But I love the idea. I mean, just the phrase, he's going to cuck a Lannister was really funny.
Right.
So I enjoyed it.
Great stuff. I love it. Can't wait to see Dunk have sex in future seasons.
I really think it's going to happen in season 2.
It would be wonderful. I would be thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. I just can't wait for this casting to be announced.
The grabbing of her braid is like a really important moment in
very powerful
literary history. Okay.
Very powerful. On the Aemon and Egg front, let's hit the whole kill the boy exchange. This is from the text. Egg had an innocence to him, a sweetness we all loved. Kill the boy within you, I told him the day I took ship for the wall. It takes a man to rule, an Aegon, not an egg. Kill the boy and let the man be born. And then he's saying to Jon, you are half the age that Egg was, and your own burden is a crueler one, I fear. You will have little joy of your command, but I think you have the strength in you to do the things that must be done. Kill the boy, Jon Snow. Winter is almost upon us. Kill the boy and let the man be born. Kill the boy, one of the most famous Jon Thrones moments. This direct tie to Egg and this
the Mad King Aegon to be born.
Suppress this innocence and this joy and this wonder and this jolly fellow because this other thing is necessary. And then where does that lead?
Ooh. Sad.
This was harrowing. Really harrowing to see this like puzzle start to all stitch together. What else? On the match fixing at White Wall's front and Mystery Night, one of my favorite passages from that third novella is Fireball's son, Glendon Flowers, who does not accept the offer, right, to fix the match. They need John the Fiddler, Daemon, to win so that he can get this egg. That is Gorman Peake's plot. Elsewhere, Dunk is exposed to the idea that Lord Uther was like, someone paid me to try to kill you. Like, there's all sorts of nefarious shit happening. He basically is like, come on the road with me and you can just be my patsy. You can lose every joust and it'll take everyone so long to figure out what we're up to. We'll make a killing, right? This is like a big part of the third novella. But Glendon Flowers specifically saying, my father died for his. I would have been his man and gladly I would have fought for him, killed for him, died for him, but I could not lose for him is so good. It's such a banger and such an incredible moment where Dunk is like, yeah, there's a shared currency between us of like why we do what we do. So I love that.
Robyn Rhysling. Okay, so here are the 6 that will ride with Duncan, right? Robyn, who we now have some information about.
Yes.
That Robyn Rhysling is like so infested by the spirit of the warrior that he's like, to war then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's like, let's just do it, right? Okay. Lionel Baratheon loves a fight.
He's not going to miss this. Yeah.
Raymond Fossaway, incestuous aliens. I'll ride with you.
Right.
Okay.
Knight me now.
Baelor, we get it. Where's the character development? Humfrey's got a bone to pick, a shattered leg bone to pick. Humphrey Hardyng has a shattered leg bone to pick, right? But like bees. I got bees.
It's just because he's my brother-in-law.
We deserve a scene.
I know.
With Humfrey Beesbury.
Yeah, that would have been helpful.
This is bullshit.
For sure. You were robbed.
Okay.
You were robbed. You were.
On the 7 theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this person posited that Dunk himself is the personification of the stranger who brings death.
Yeah.
Any other like spoilery sort of assignments you wanted to make?
I think just in general, the presence of the stranger because of the, Baylor's death and this like.
Yeah, but was it Dunk who brought death here?
Well, he certainly thinks so, right?
Darren
when he says,
thinks so.
Darren, of course, the dream that we'll get from Darren in the next stretch of story. But then at the end of this novella, like this conversation that Dunk and Maker will have, Mika is like, people are always going to say I did this thing. Mm-hmm. They're always going to say it. And Dunk's like, I carried the blame too. And Maker's like, correct. Like he doesn't try to talk him out of it. He's like, yeah, they'll always say it about you too. You know? And this idea that plagues Dunk of like, my foot, what was this foot worth? Could it have been worth a prince's life?
Prince's life, yeah. Yeah. So Duncan as the stranger in this 7 makeup here. It's fun theory.
Great show.
hobbiesanddragons@gmail.com if you have other thoughts about that, about the 7 theory or anything else.
I'm excited for episode 4.
Or how we get Ted Sarandos to promise us 13 seasons and a movie. And a summer home movie.
I mean, to be fair, all 13 seasons are basically going to be movies.
And a movie.
So a 14th season. We did it. We're halfway through A Night of the Seven Kingdoms season 1. Sad. Don't want it to end.
It's just the movie's just called Summer Hall.
That would be great.
Except it's going to be Game of Thrones presents A Night of the Seven Kingdoms : Summer Hall.
The Tragedy at Summer Hall.
The Tragedy at Summer Hall.
A Night of the Seven Kingdoms story.
Coming this winter, story. Summer Hall. Summer
Spring
Hall.
is coming.
Spring is coming this winter at Summer Hall.
I can see it all on a poster. Think of the popcorn bucket. All right.
It's just somebody's smoldering corpse that you're eating popcorn out of.
What about the dragon helm? That would be a great popcorn bucket.
Arion's dragon helm?
That'd be great.
Yeah, but we're in season 13 at this point. Like
I know, but he's got at some
but
point,
a distant memory.
If we're doing
we will be
seasons,
aged crones our very selves.
We will be at some point though. If we're doing 13 seasons, I mean, we're getting the Great Council. Egg is going to be selected. Sure, Arion's going to be shipped off to lease, but at some point, we're going to get this fucker drinking wildfire and dying.
It's going to be great.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. All right. Thank you. Thank you to Wart. Egg.
Thank you to Alice.
Thank you to Alice.
And her entire arm bone. As a twin.
Thank you to the hammer and the anvil.
Mm-hmm. And all the veiny Dorishmen that were involved.
Real team effort today. Thank you to our crew. Carlos Chiriboga, as always. Here with us early.
For hours and hours
up the studio at the crack of dawn. Arjuna Ramika Powell.
Yes.
Jomia Denneran, as always. And thank you to Sarah Reddy once again for helping us out today. Join us again on Friday or whenever you watch the next episode over the weekend. Talk the Thrones will be waiting for you in your feeds and on the Ringerverse YouTube channel after episode 4. And then we will be back with our episode 4 deep dive next Tuesday evening.
As per usual.
It's been Wednesday 2 out of the first 3 weeks. But in theory, my fault both times. In theory, as per usual. Until then. Goodbye.